Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is Open Mic. Now, what is Open Mic? Well, I'm often glad that you asked. See, every day on the John Campea Show, Monday through Friday, we take a little time as I still try to figure out some of my technical things here. Every day, spend a little time, Monday through Fridays, I bring up this screen so I can fix this. 1 second. Where we take 1 second and we got it? We got it. There we go. Every day on the John Campea Show, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, we save the second hour of the show to take live questions. But here on Saturdays and on the weekends and on Sundays, all we do is take your live questions. That's what we do. You guys set the bar here for what it is we're going to talk about. I trust you guys have all had it. Well, I mean, at least at minimum, a relaxing day. I hope everything is going well for you guys so far this weekend. I know I got big plans today. We got our Dungeons and Dragons group tonight. Of course, we've been playing over the internet. All of us have been playing remotely. We've been using, I think we're using a couple pieces of software to do it so we can all have the maps up and all see ourselves and blah, blah. So we're doing that a little bit today. Anne's got me playing a little bit of Animal Crossing. She's got me, when she's done playing, she's got other things to do. She gets me to go and get resources for her. So I'm like chopping trees and picking apples and all the silly things to do that. So big plans today, guys. Big plans. I hope you guys have some bigger plans than me. But anyway, guys, we do have a lot of things to talk about here today. And we're going to get started off today by catching up on the last number of questions that we didn't get around to on yesterday's open mic. And then we'll roll seamlessly right into the new questions that have been sent in today. So I hope you guys are all doing great. So without any further ado, let's dive right into it and get started with the first question we need to get caught up on. And we're going to get caught up here, first of all, with Alex Detman, who writes, I tried to explain that my mother has lupus and I can get sick, and they said I'd be fine 4 days later after escorting numerous patients positive. Oh, that sucks to hear, dude. So Alex wrote in the other day, I remember he wrote in another question, if I'm remembering it correctly, that their boss said they didn't need to wear protective gear doing their job, which is, I mean, depending on what protective gear and what environment it is, that could be a very silly thing to say. So Alex wrote in, dude, I'm so sorry to hear that, dude. Bunker down, hunker in. Our thoughts are with you. And make sure you stay away from your mom. Make sure you stay away from your mom. I mean, that's the main thing there. But hang in there, dude. And sorry to hear about that, my friend. And yeah, have a good I told you so a conversation with your boss when you have a chance to do that. Richard Karate writes, have you heard the recent breaking news? It's all over the world that Dominic Toretto is single-handedly fighting the coronavirus and winning. Obviously, it's Dom. I mean, that's kind of the running gag here. For those of you who don't know what Richard's talking about, is that literally the only one true Mary Sue character in movies right now, in ongoing franchises, the only one true Mary Sue character is Dominic Toretto. The literal character that can literally do no wrong. Everything is done with perfection. He can fight, a cage full of 12 full-grown grizzly bears, and Dominic Toretto will win. That's just the way it is. Dominic Toretto wins and succeeds at everything he does. And and that's fine because it kind of works in the Fast and Furious arena. And I love me Vin Diesel, but I mean, it's true. Dominic Toretto, if you need the coronavirus taken care of, you unleash Dominic Toretto. Make that the point of the next Fast and the Furious movie, and then you'll probably see it all settled by the end of the movie. All right, next up, Alex Dedman also writes in, so I'm literally in my garage, quarantined, so my mom stays safe. Good idea. A few times I've wanted to curb somebody, but today might be that day. Thanks for making my day better. Andy Dufresne and I joined Patreon. Andy Dufresne, that's of course a reference to Shawshank Redemption. And listen, the biggest thing that during the whole quarantine thing that sucks is the whole isolation stuff. I mean, that's the part that drives you a little bit crazy. Now, I'm lucky. I'm married. My wife is here with me, so I don't have it nearly as bad as a lot of other people do have to isolate themselves, like literally singularly. That's got to be I can't even. I mean, it's a pain in the ass for everybody. But if you are isolating yourself single and by yourself, that's got to be even more stir crazy. I mean, you got to play a lot more. I mean, I'd get Xbox, PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, everything. Hell, go get the old ColecoVision. Go get Intellivision. Go get LeisureVision. Go get every single game console you can think of, because you really got to keep yourself busy over this. So best of luck while you're doing that, man. Hang tight. And Alex, all right. Sorry if the chats came out of order, brother. No problem. It happens. It's all right. It's the important thing is you get the questions in. That's the main thing. All right. Next one. Tim Platt writes, top 5 bands / artists. Number 1, AC/DC. Number 1B, Metallica. Number 1C, Queen. Number 4, Disturbed. Number 5, Eminem. Honorable mention to Avenged Sevenfold. Yeah, there's a really, I've got a lot of AC/DC on my playlist. I've got a little bit of Eminem on my playlist. I got a little bit of Queen on my playlist. I honestly, you know what? There's a 1 or 2 albums of Metallica I really quite like, but I don't actually have any of them on my playlist right now. I mean, again, it's really weird. My musical tastes are very diverse because I like all that, but I also have Andrea Bocelli on my playlist, the operatic singer. I've also got obviously a lot of U2, which is my favorite band of all time. So yeah, I mean, it's a very, very mixed list, and I like your list, Tim. Thanks for sharing that. All right. Emmanuel Eckhart writes, 1 of 3. Eckhart writes, 1 of 3. Hey, John, Patreon supporter here. Thank you for being a Patreon supporter, Emmanuel. I appreciate that. Want to thank you for keeping us entertained. I want to recommend a couple of modern and I feel very underrated movies. This is a good time to do that, Emmanuel. This is a really good time to do that for everybody. 2 of 3. 1. This one I hear you talk about a lot, but it's so awesome that I feel never is enough, and that is The Nice Guys. Please watch it, guys. Directed by Shane Black, Russell Crowe, Ryan Gosling. Absolutely monster of a movie. It's quick, it's fun, it's funny, it's got mystery to it. It's just a great little movie that should have been a huge hit and should have gone on to be a franchise, but nobody went to give it a chance, which is really unfortunate because the movie's really, really sharp. So I like that recommendation, Manuel, a lot. And then 3 writes, American Made. This is Tom Cruise movie. Is fun and awesome and based on real events. 3, War Dogs. Totally underrated movie. War Dogs, another awesome movie that needs more love. War Dogs is a movie, I'll be honest with you, it looks like crap. It does. I can't remember who directed it off the top of my head. It's Jonah Hill. And, I keep forgetting the name of the guy who is Mr. Fantastic. Hold a second. War Dogs, IMDb. I keep forgetting his name because he was also in Whiplash. He was alongside Whiplash. Oh, and it was directed by Todd Phillips. That's right. It was directed by the Joker's Todd Phillips. Miles Teller. That's right. So it's about these 2 guys. It's based on a true story that I'm sure takes a lot of liberties about these 2 dudes who fall ass backwards into being arms suppliers to wars around the world. It's the craziest thing, but it comes together really, really nicely. It honestly comes together really nicely. It's a fun, nice little movie. And if you have not had a chance to check it out, let me bring it up here on the screen so you can see the movie we're talking about. If you have not had a chance to see it at all, I would highly, highly recommend checking it out. It was way better than I thought it would be. And if you dodged it, I don't blame you because it didn't look all that good. But I'm telling you, it's a really sharp, fun little movie. Take Emmanuel's recommendation, go give that one a shot because it really is quite good. All right, next one up here. We're going over to, Tacky. We didn't get Tacky up there yet. Okay, so Tacky75 writes, Contagion is now the most popular movie in IMDb. Well, what does that mean, popular? I'm not quite, does that mean it's like the number 1 search for movie on IMDb? I wouldn't be surprised. Contagion, Outbreak, anything like that at all just seems to make sense. That would be like the most talked about and searched for things right now. All right, Tim Platt writes, as a kid, I thought black and white movies were too old to be good until one day they showed 12 Angry Men in my government class in high school. Totally changed my viewpoint. What's a movie that completely changed the way you viewed movies? Well, I mean, obviously there's the first one, Star Wars. I mean, there was that. But outside of that, I don't know. See, I have honestly just been a lifelong film fan. Again, when your earliest childhood memory is that of a movie, it's hard. I've always been completely plugged in and obsessed with movies and stuff like that. I mean, one that really changed my viewpoint of older movies was Lawrence of Arabia, and we talk about Lawrence of Arabia a lot on this show, and specifically because of stuff like that. So that's one that really got me. Also, the Alastair Sim I was going to say Nightmare Before Christmas. Not A Nightmare Before Christmas. Christmas Carol is one that really stands out to me a lot. So even, and I saw those younger, and so from a very like early stage, I had a real appreciation for the older films as well. But those are a couple, and it's still really nice when every once in a while, as long as we've been watching movies, every once in a while another movie can come along that can kind of readjust the way you see movies. Honestly, I remember that Emma Stone movie, Octavia Spencer, The Help. That movie, I just remember walking out going, oh, right, that's what movies can do. Movies can be that powerful and that strong. And I loved it. Watching the documentary, Won't You Be My Neighbor? The one about Fred Rogers, or about Mr. Rogers, that was out just a couple of years ago. That was one that completely altered the way I viewed and understood the world around me and myself. I mean, movies just have the power to do that. And so those are ones that do it for me, man. Those are ones that do it for me. All right, next one. Emmanuel Ericart writes, also want to recommend a very underrated band that I'm 100% sure you will love. Manic Street Preachers. Start with the song If You Tolerate This. I've heard of this group. I could not tell you a single song they may sing, so I might check them out at some point. Thanks for the recommendation. Herman Mueller writes, Canadians are not violent people at all. We pie our leaders. Yeah, that's a reference. There's an infamous event that happened. A guy who was a Canadian prime minister when I was younger, Jean Chrétien, and somebody. This is how we do our big political. He got a pie in the face. Yep. I mean, it was many years ago, but he got a pie in the face. Or at least in the chest or the side of the head or something like that. That's how Canadians express their violence, is pies. I mean, that's a long callback there, Herman. That's a good observation. All right, Stubble McShave writes, I saw Deep Space Nine episode Explorers. It's a great episode that shows how to do representation in a time when black actors were rarely seen in big roles. We get to see a black man and his son relate to each other as father and son without making an issue of it. Can be seen on its own. Well, I'm a fan of Deep Space Nine. I've seen every episode of Deep Space Nine, but I'm not as obsessively up on it that I can tell you the name of individual episodes. As a matter of fact, I've never paid attention to the names of episodes in shows. Even like one of my all-time favorites, Sons of Anarchy, I couldn't tell you what the name of each episode is because I don't care. I don't care what the names of the episodes are. I mean, when you go to Seinfeld, their names are descriptions about the shows, like the one about this or the one about that, or what. There was a show that did that one, that the one about this, the one about that, the one that was an interesting way of doing it. But Deep Space Nine, when they had Captain Sisko there, it was a really solid. I mean, not as good as Star Trek: The Next Generation or anything like that, but it was a really solid Star Trek show, and it was a very different kind of Star Trek show too. And for those are just some of the reasons right there, Stubble. All right, next, Alex Detman writes, P.S. Bro, if you love Marvel, try Future Fight on your smartphone or tablet and tell me it's not addicting. Just trying to keep your brains from turning to mush. I don't have my phone here right now. Hold on, let me look this up. Future Fight. It is a Marvel Android game. I guess what is it? It's a combat like Street Fighter kind of game. I'm not quite sure. Marvel Future Fight is a superhero-themed mobile video game created by Netmarble Games and is directly affiliated with Marvel Entertainment under Disney, available with many superheroes and villains uniform with their details. Okay, you know what? I'm always got my eyes open for a good tablet or phone game. I will keep my eyes open on that one. Thank you for the recommendation, Alex. All right, NKS432 writes, definitely recommending Altered Carbon Resleeved. If you could, the animation is fantastic and it's so much better than the series. Super violent though. Again, I've had a few people writing in about this one. I'm not into Altered Carbon, like the show. And so I don't know that if I'm not into the show, I'm not all that interested in checking out the animated spin-off of it. But for those of you who are into Altered Carbon, I mean, it's always great. This is one of the neat things about everybody writing in recommendations is that, hey, sometimes I check them out, sometimes I don't. But I always hear from people saying, oh, somebody on the show recommended this, so I went to go check it out. So one of the great things is with you, NKS, and others recommending Altered Carbon Resleeved, I'm sure a lot of people are now checking it out. I don't think I will. It's just because I'm not into Altered Carbon, so I probably won't check this one out. I got too many other things to watch. But I'm sure a lot of people are going to watch it now because of your recommendations, and they're probably going to be very thankful that you did. So thanks for sending that in, man. All right. James Welsh writes, Trolls 2 cost $90 million. Can it make that on VOD? Nowhere near. It's gonna get its ass handed to it. But here's the thing too about Trolls 2. It became very obvious to them, even before the Corona stuff, that this was a movie that was going to tank. The early tracking for Trolls 2 had it making less than half of what Trolls 1 made on its opening weekend. And there was literally no buzz about it. So, to be fair, Trolls 2 was probably going to be flop. Now, by the way, I don't know if the movie's good or not. The movie might be great. Quite frankly, I like the first Trolls movie. I think the first Trolls movie is rather delightful. I like it. It's not one of the great animated films, but I like it. It's a good movie. This one does not look good at all. Then again, I didn't think the first Trolls movie looked good either. and I ended up liking it. So maybe this next one will be really great and really fun, but it was going to lose money whether it went to theaters or not. But going straight to VOD, they're absolutely guaranteed to lose their shirts. They're going to lose a ton of money on this. They're just hoping that they can lose maybe a little bit. Their fingers crossed hope is that they can lose a little bit less money going to straight to VOD than they would have in theaters. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think they're really going to take a massive, massive beating. And listen, from all the reports that I'm reading, everybody I'm talking to, none of the movies going straight to VOD right now. Not Onward, not Invisible Man, not anything. None of them are doing particularly good business on VOD. Which I'm not surprised about, because everybody thinks, oh, straight to video, everybody's going to look. No, they don't. No, they don't. And now we're getting proof. Now, granted, right now we're getting things like Bloodshot, things like Invisible Man, things like Onward. These were movies that did hit theaters, and none of them are exactly, with the exception of maybe Onward, none of them are exactly like super high profile mega blockbuster. But if these movies are coming out straight to VOD and they're doing sub what they would have been doing in theaters, you know that's going to happen with the bigger films too. They'll make more than, say, Bloodshot does, but it's still going to be significantly less. So no, there's no way Trolls 2 is going to make back its money. There's no way. But then again, it probably wasn't going to do it in theaters anyway, so you got to balance that out a little bit, I suppose. All right, an anonymous viewer writes, I've read the Rise of Skywalker visual dictionary cover to cover, and it seems Screen Rant was incorrect. Palpatine's return was not even mentioned, and the quote they used did not refer to him. I'm not sure why Screen Rant put that article out. Well, I have not read it myself because I don't care about Rise of Skywalker anymore. I'm not going to invest any more of my time into it. That said, and to be fair to Screen Rant, a number of outlets got their hands on early versions of that, and they all said that. So to be fair, it's not just them. I suppose it could be possible you're reading the wrong book, or it could be possible that of the early copies they released to some people to review, that maybe they changed it. I mean, I don't know. But again, to be fair to Screen Rant, because I do give Screen Rant a hard time sometimes about their standards. But to be fair to them, they weren't the only one. There were a number of outlets that got early copies, and they all reported the same thing. So maybe you missed it. Maybe they changed it. It's going to be interesting to see. I'll look into that a little bit more. Thanks for bringing that up, Anonymous. All right, Richard Crotty writes, Vince McMahon for president, your thoughts? I'm not even going to touch that. No. NKS, no, Richard, just no. NKS432 writes, also recommending Train to Busan if you're into zombie movies, especially poignant now. Also, Rampant and Kingdom, Korean zombie flicks are da bomb. You know, we've talked a bunch about Train to Busan, but Kingdom is also one that I have got queued up because, number one, Kaori keeps coming over here and pestering Ann and I, you got to watch Kingdom, you got to watch Kingdom, you got to watch Kingdom. Rob has watched Kingdom. He's telling me it's really good. I keep hearing from you guys that it's really good. So Ann and I have got it on our queue. We're going to get through a few more things and then we're going to start watching Kingdom, because everybody's just talking mad props to this movie. This series. So apparently season 3 just dropped. Is that what the season they're on? Either season 3 or season 2 just dropped. So I'm excited to watch it because everybody's talking so highly about it. So thank you for adding your voice to the chorus, NKS. All right. The Tuzzler writes, do you think we will get the R-rated Beverly Hills Cop 4 fans deserve on Netflix? Bad Boys for Life director spoke out about it. I don't see why not. I mean, I honestly, if you're going, Netflix clearly doesn't have any problem with doing R. For them, it's a much different situation, a much different set of hurdles or problems that they have to face than say other films going to theatrical stuff. I don't think they have any problems with it. Now, whether or not Beverly Hills Cop 4 is going to be any good, or whether it even gets made, I know they're saying it is, but honestly, who knows? Who knows? But, and by the way, I still reject this whole thing. To be good, things have to be R. I reject that completely. You know, a lot of the greatest films, most of the greatest films of all time are not rated R. R does not make a movie better. Let's just be clear about that, please. R does not make a movie better. And you know me, I love filthy. Bring on the filthy, but it does. Most films, I'd say 95% of films do not need an R rating in order to be good. They don't. Now, there are some movies that really are, by the nature of their material, predisposed to really needing to be R. A Deadpool is a good example of that. But even then, I think Deadpool could have been done fine PG-13, but R was the right way to go. A lot of people keep saying, man, we really need an R-rated Batman. I'm like, Batman has never been R-rated. There's nothing about Batman that is R-rated. When you go through the comics and stuff like that, you're very rarely, if ever, going to come across anything that would come across as being an R-rated. I don't know that Beverly Hills Cop needs to be rated R. Now, don't get me wrong. They give me a call and say, hey, Campea, we're making this Beverly Hills Cop 4. Should we go for PG-13 or should we go for R? I'm going to say, yeah, go for R. That's what I would. I mean, my preference would be rated R but it's not like, oh my gosh, if they do PG-13, that means it can't be good. I reject that thinking. I don't believe that's true in the least. I think, listen, a movie's either going to be good or it's going to be bad, right? A movie's either going to be good or a movie's going to be bad. You take a bad movie and go, oh, make him say fuck 4 more times. It's not going to go, whoa, wait a minute, now this is a good movie. You know, you take a bad PG-13 movie and say, oh, let's show some tits. That's not going to take a bad movie and make a good movie. It's going to give us a fun moment, but it's not going to make a bad movie a good movie. A movie's either going to be good or bad, and that's just the way it is. But there are some films that do kind of lend themselves a little bit more to me being better suited for an R-rated or not. And I think Beverly Hills Cop 4 is very possibly one of those films. But all I'm saying is, if we do get some sort of announcement that they're going to do Beverly Hills Cop 4, but it's not going to be rated R, I'm going to say it's nothing to shut the lights out over. I would still say keep an open mind. They can make this the best Beverly Hills Cop film of all time, even though it's not rated R. Give it a shot, right? That's what I would say. So we'll have to wait and see. All right, James Welsh writes, Onward, 100 to 200 million budget, say 50 million for marketing, $74 million box office, biggest bomb of the year, probably. Now, of course, you're going to have to put a giant asterisk beside that because its theatrical run was obviously heavily impacted by the coronavirus outbreak. So you got to put a little bit of an asterisk beside that for sure. Because, listen, I don't think this was a movie that was going to be a big blockbuster, even without the situation. But it obviously would not have done this poorly were it not for the situation either. So you're going to have to put an asterisk beside that. But all other things being equal, yeah, I think it's going to be the biggest flop of the year. But again, you got to put an asterisk because it's a good movie. Onward is a good movie. But it is, the bottom line is going to be the biggest flop of the year, but you're always going to have to put that giant asterisk beside it that it was clearly heavily impacted by the coronavirus outbreak. All right, next up. Where are we at here? We are at, was that James? That was James. Next, James also says, you say Infernal Affairs is better than The Departed. I believe so. I mean, I by a little bit prefer Infernal Affairs, yes. So do you think Infernal Affairs was Oscar worthy? I do. Now, and I also think The Departed was Oscar worthy. And of course, The Departed, which is a remake of Infernal Affairs, The Departed did win Best Picture at the Academy Awards and got Martin Scorsese his first Academy Award as a director. But I even think Infernal Affairs is a little bit better. So yeah, I actually do think Infernal Affairs is an Oscar level movie. I really do. I think it's that good. All right, next up, Chris Warden writes, I love True Lies as well, John. That's my all-time favorite action film. Not enough to make my top 10 list of action movies, but it definitely deserves an honorable mention. LOL. Hey, listen, we all have our own lists, and all of our top lists will look different from each other's, and that's one of the beautiful things about movies. So that's no worries there. But yeah, man, True Lies, I don't know. True Lies really epitomized the great action films of the day. Big star, big fun action, good solid comedy and one-liners throughout. And I'm telling you, man, that movie is just a win for me from start to finish. From the moment I start watching that movie, you hit play on it and start watching it right to the final end credits as they're doing the final tango. It is just gold. Gold all the way through. James Cameron, Arnold, at the height of their powers, making just marvelous movies. It is my favorite James Cameron movie. Just a magnificent, magnificent film. But hey, it's not going to be in everybody's top 10 list, and that's totally fine. All of our lists look different, but I love that movie, man. All right, let's see here. Anthony Mendoza writes, first time tipping. Oh, thank you so much, Anthony. We appreciate the support around here. Thank you, John and crew, for all you do and have done. I've listened to you every day since the first episode of AMC Movie Talk in 2009. Thank you so much for that, man. I appreciate that you've been along for the ride with us like that. You've been the bright spot of the day throughout all my tragedies, especially since losing my mom 3 years ago. I'm sorry to hear that, dude. Thank you so much for everything. You know what? I know people hear me say this all the time, but I will keep repeating it because I believe it's just so fundamentally important. You know, the great thing about movies and the movie fan community is that it offers us that break in the midst of all the stupidest crap going on in our lives, whether it's like global crap that's going on right now, whether it's personal tragedy, clearly like the one you went through, unfortunately, a few years ago. You know, movies doesn't take the tragedies away. But what movies do is they give us that a little bit of an oasis. We get to take everything that is all the adversity facing us and just put it aside for a couple of hours. Watch a movie or talk to our fellow film fans about movies and just allow ourselves to enjoy ourselves for a bit, to put a smile on our faces, to think about the fantastic worlds that these movies create or whatever. And then when we come back out of it, it's not like our problems are gone. It's not like the adversity's been dealt with. No, it's still there. The difference is we're now a little bit more mentally rested. We've maybe adopted a little bit of a different perspective because that's what the power of community and stories can do. And we're able to face the adversity with a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit more of a different perspective and a different way of approaching it. And maybe just a little bit more capably. And that's always why movies and the fan community has always been something that I've relied on a lot over the years when dealing with a lot of harsh, horrible things. Like even when I left my job at Collider, that's a rough time for me making that decision because that was something I had spent years building. And I'd made the decision to leave, and I'm not going to rehash all the reasons. But ultimately I made the decision to leave. And that was hard and it was scary because, I decided I was going to break out on my own and all this kind of stuff. And I didn't know what it was going to do. I didn't know if I was going to bankrupt myself. It was just hard time. It was a hard time. I knew it was the right decision, but it was a hard time. And I'm just giving this as an example, but I watched a lot of movies during that transition period. I watched a lot of movies during that transition period. And I got online, both on my own shows, but also in other communities, whether it's on Twitter and other chat areas, and just immersed myself in a lot of movies and a lot of movie fandom and just talked with a lot of film fans. And that it just really did help me get through it. And so that's why it's always amazing when we hear stories like yours, Anthony, about, the crap stuff happens. Somebody, I think it was Emmanuel just wrote a little bit earlier that he, at his job, contracted the coronavirus. You losing your mom. The films, the movie world and the movie fan community is still here. And it doesn't cure our problems, but it helps us, strengthen our backs a bit, put a little bit more energy in our legs, and it helps us get through them. And that's one of the reasons why I've always loved movies and the movie fan community. So I'm super grateful, Anthony, that the movie fan community has been able to be that for you. So that's awesome. And thank you, dude, for being with us since the first days of AMC Movie Talk. I appreciate that, man. I hope you have a great day. All right. Russell Amador writes, Where are we at here? There it is. Hey, John, last minute movie recommendation. Go. Ooh, last minute movie recommendation. Go. What's a good one? It sounds silly. But this movie never fails to put a smile on my face. George of the Jungle. George of the Jungle. Hold on a second. I forget who directed it. The Jungle, IMDb. Hold on a second here. It was in 1997. Sam Weisman directed it. It had Leslie Mann, first of all, Leslie Mann was like so, first of all, she is so insanely beautiful, but she was so incredibly beautiful in that movie. She's, of course, married to Judd Apatow, and she has one of the greatest moments in comedy film history. In my all-time favorite comedy, 40-Year-Old Virgin, let's get some fucking French toast. It's one of the greatest lines of all time. Ann and I still quote it to each other like weekly. And Brendan Fraser is George of the Jungle. I believe John Cleese of Monty Python fan, I believe he was the name, he did the voice of Ape. Anyway, silly little fun movie. Absolutely fun little movie. I believe it never got the love it deserved. I think that's a movie that deserved love, and it never got the love it deserved. So, last minute off the top of my head, movie recommendation, George of the Jungle. It's totally silly, but I think it's completely delightful, and I enjoy it a lot. All right, let's see. NKS writes, what are your thoughts on rumors of Robert Downey Jr. willing to take a pay cut to return to the MCU, either in Ironheart as an AI or to work with Holland and Paltrow? BS. 100% bull. Never believe that shit. Look, I'm going to tell you right now, that stuff never came from Hollywood Reporter or Variety. You know, the people that actually know the people in the studios, it never came from any of those places. But here's the thing. This is a spaghetti against the wall story. And what I mean by that is, like, somebody who breaks a story, we can exclusively tell you in a story that a Batmobile will be in the next Batman. Okay, well, we all knew that was going to happen anyway. But some website decides to run with that as an exclusive, as if they're the first one breaking the news, when really they don't know that and they don't actually have any real information. But we all know that's what's going to happen anyway. So it's a spaghetti against the wall sort of thing, right? Throw it against the wall, see what sticks. I have been telling you guys for years, even before Endgame, that at some point, Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans are going to be done playing Iron Man and Captain America. But you bet your ass that maybe not the year after, maybe not 2 years after, hell, maybe not even 3 years after, but both of them will be back. I 100% guarantee it. May not be next year, may not be in 2 years, might not even be in 3 years. They'll be back. They will be back. It's just what happens. They will be back. Make no mistake about it, they will. And everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. Right? And then all of a sudden, a story comes out about he's willing to come back to take a pay cut. Listen, don't believe any of that stuff. He's going to be back. He's going to be back. And I said a long time ago that history most likely will repeat itself. Right? History will most likely repeat itself. Because you remember, it was in the same season that Robert Downey Jr. was preparing for his departure from the MCU because his original contract was about to be run out and he was going to leave it. And it was all everybody talked about for months is Robert Downey Jr. and the MCU going to work out a new deal and all this kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. Robert Downey Jr. did a pretty good little movie called The Judge, right? He produced it, he starred in it, and the movie flopped. And it wasn't long after that, again, it was in the same season, that Robert Downey Jr. re-ups with the new deal for Marvel. Of course, Robert Downey Jr. just had an unfortunate experience with Dr. Dolittle, or I'm sorry, just Dolittle. That movie is bad. It's a bad film. I'm a big Robert Downey Jr. fan, but that movie was just bad. Bad film. Bad film. Bad movie. It's a bad movie. And it did not do well. As a matter of fact, let me take a second here. And hold on a second. Dolittle box office. I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head about what it did. Dolittle box office. There we go. Dolittle at Box Office Mojo. The movie cost, without marketing, $175 million. figure probably about $75 million in marketing. You're looking at $250 million in marketing. That means minimum you're probably going to have to make around north of $400 million. And I'm being generous. You got to make north of $400 million to break even. This movie made 227. 227. Now, a lot of filmmakers would kill to make a movie that made $227 million. But then again, a lot of filmmakers are not making a movie that costs $175 to make and probably around the neighborhood of $75 million to market. So it's a tough business. And yeah, I think Robert Downey Jr. is at some point going to hit the spot. Well, listen, the MCU will always be there with open arms to welcome Robert Downey Jr. back. Maybe not have Tony in the same priority that he has been in the first three phases of the MCU, but nonetheless, I think Robert Downey Jr., you do anything for 10 plus years, you're going to start to get tired of it a little bit and you're going to want to move away from it. But then at some point he's going to, hey, remember when I was the hottest thing around? Remember when they used to back dump trucks filled with Nazi gold to my front door? Remember those days? Those were good days. And he's going to pick up the phone and he's going to give Kevin a call. And they say, hey, we should have lunch sometime. And during lunch, Kevin will bring it up, say, again, you ever think you might want to come back? You know what, Kevin? Maybe we start with something small. Whatever. Listen, however it turns out, it's going to happen. But these current reports are all BS, right? It's like somebody comes out and breaks a story. Exclusive. In January, we've got it on good authority. We've got a leak from the weather offices. In January of 2021, we hear that it's expected in the city of Seattle to rain at least one day in January 2021. Or snow or whatever sort of precipitation. No shit. Of course it is. But anyway, that's what this is. We know they're coming back, but I wouldn't pay any attention to the details of the story whatsoever. That's my personal thought on it. At any rate. And who knows? Listen, but I put the asterisk beside by saying almost anything is possible. Almost anything is possible. But you bet at some point Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans will be back. They will. They're going to do other things for a bit. They're going to recover from doing 10 years of this stuff. And then they're going to go, man, remember how fun it was making those Avengers movies? Remember how great it was when everybody thought I was the greatest thing in the world? Remember how great it was making those insanely huge paydays for doing something I had a lot of fun doing? Those were good days. And you'll see them back. They'll be back. All right. Mike Thompson writes, I'm torn. I love Star Trek Picard, but I also love hearing Rob rant about it. It's going to be a long wait until season 2. You know what? I still haven't watched the season finale of Picard. I enjoy Picard a lot. Again, I don't think it's the best Star Trek ever. I don't think it's as good as Star Trek The Next Generation, but I've really enjoyed Picard, although I have not seen the finale yet. But I've really enjoyed it myself. And yeah, Rob, whenever the topic comes up of Picard, when Rob and I are in the same room, you just see Rob kind of take a breath and go, here we go. And it's whatever. But yeah, Rob really doesn't like that show. I really do. And, there are a lot of people out there who love the show, and there are a lot of people out there who don't like it. I mean, it's like a lot of art. It's not for everybody, and that's totally fine. That's totally cool. But I'm with you, Mike. I really do enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to watching the finale. All right, next up, Troy Powell writes, over under 30%. There's a Marvel Zombies versus Army of Darkness cameo in Doctor Strange 2. Oof. Under Sam Raimi, that becomes a distinct possibility. See, under Scott Derrickson, who did such a great job with the first Doctor Strange movie, such a great job with the first movie as the director of the film, I would have said that would be like a 2% chance. Under Sam Raimi, who knows horror, but also has a lot of fun with his comedy elements, and you're talking about some beloved space of his right there with the titles you're mentioning. Man, you know what? I'll still say under 30%. I'll still say under 30%, but not a lot under 30%. Like again, under Scott Derrickson, I would have said 2%. Much higher under Sam Raimi. Much higher. I still won't go 30. That's too big of a chance. But it's possible, maybe 20 to 25% chance, like legitimate shot. Maybe a 20-25% chance. Let's keep our eyes open because with Sam Raimi, anything's possible. All right, Russell Amador writes, "Hey, John, what are your thoughts on Horrible Bosses 2? I was watching with the fam and forgot how many funny moments there are." Okay, I'll say this about Horrible Bosses 2. There are definitely some really good moments. There are definitely some really good moments in that. No doubt. And I am a big fan of the first Horrible Bosses. I was, however, a little disappointed with Horrible Bosses 2. I did not think the movie sucked. I don't think it was a complete train wreck. And it's been a while since I've seen it, but I was disappointed with it. I didn't think it was nearly as good as the first one, but you're not wrong. There are a few moments in there that are really exciting. You know what I compare it to? Ted and Ted 2. Because in Ted 2, I don't think Ted 2 was nearly as good as Ted 1. But there are some extremely big highlight moments in Ted 2. You might even be able to argue that a couple of the big highlight moments in Ted 2 are even funnier than a couple of the highlight moments in Ted 1. But I think overall as a movie, it was a significant step down from Ted 1. That's how I kind of feel about Horrible Bosses 2. Terrific cast, some great highlight moments, but overall it just didn't work nearly as well as a complete package for me as the second one did. So that's kind of my thoughts on that, Russell. But to admit, I haven't watched it in a long time, so I might have to go back and watch it again. All right, Dropkick Aggie writes, "Glad to hear you may be able to start playing Breath of the Wild. It's a special game, one of my favorites of all time. Which Legend of Zelda games have you completed? I've played about 8, but only managed to finish about 3. The only one I ever completed, I believe, was back when it was on in television. I believe. Hold on a second. Zelda in television. I think. I believe it was on in television. Yeah. Oh, no. Okay, wait a second. Or you know what I was thinking of? I was thinking of something completely different. I was thinking of a different game. I played like the original Zelda. The one on television I was thinking about was Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know why I was thinking about that one. That was the one on television that I was playing. Let's see. Let me just bring it back up here. I used to love Intellivision. Oh my God. I remember my uncles used to come over. I was a kid, so my uncles, I have many uncles, but 2 uncles I had in particular, I come from a big Italian family. I don't know why I'm telling you this story, but follow along with me. So I have a big Italian family. And so, I had my uncles, my aunts, but I had more aunts than I did uncles in the Italian blood side, right? So I had my aunts, Sue, Maria, Pina, Lenora, my dad's 4 sisters. So anyway, my grandparents had 6 kids. They had 2 boys. The oldest, my dad. The youngest, my Uncle Paul. And then in between, they had 4 daughters. And those were my aunts. And I love my aunts. Anyway, my aunts, Pina and Lenora, married 2 Canadian dudes. One named Paul. I had like 3 Uncle Pauls. But one named Paul and one named Doug. And these were 2 of my uncles. And the reason I used to love it when my Uncle Paul, my Uncle Doug would watch me is because my Uncle Paul, my Uncle Doug had an Intellivision. And they would break out the Intellivision. And they would often play like football on the Intellivision or something like that. And I'd get to play a little bit too. So I used to love it when Uncle Paul and Uncle Doug would watch me and they'd pull out the Intellivision. How did I get on this talking about Zelda? I don't know. It's Sunday. We can talk about whatever we want. So anyway, go look it up. I know Intellivision is before a lot of people, like it was after Atari, but before like the popularity of Nintendo. That's where Intellivision came in. There were other game systems in there too. Like there was ColecoVision and LaserVision and things like that. But I remember playing Intellivision on that. Anyway, it was after that era that I played like the first Zelda game. But I think that's honestly the only one I ever really completed. I used to play a lot of the different Zelda games on like one of my Nintendo emulators. But I never got tremendously far into those games because my emulators would have like 800 games on them and I'd lose interest very quickly and move on to the next game and to the next game and to the next game. But Breath of the Wild is one I want to get into playing and one I'd like to try to finish if I can. Anyway, sorry about, I on the weekends I go off onto wild stories. Sorry about that, Dropkick Aggie. All right, Willow writes, how many times... Here we go. How many times have you talked about the Snyder Cut on the show and then ended with saying you hope this will be the last time you ever have to discuss the topic again? I've lost count. Oh, I've lost count too. Here's the thing though. You know, when something like the coronavirus outbreak happens and the quarantine happens, and then major chains like Wendy's are tweeting out things like X about the Snyder Cut and all that kind of stuff, and there's a whole new circumstance, whatever, it bears revisiting. And I felt like, even though I was completely done with the Snyder Cut stuff, I felt like, you know, I said before, I think it wouldn't be a bad idea for HBO Max to take the Snyder Cut as is, even though it's not complete. Take it as is and just release it. Take whatever state it's in that Zack Snyder showed to Jason Momoa a few months ago and just put it up on HBO Max. I said, you know, that's probably not a bad idea, but it's totally cool if they don't, and I wouldn't put it blah, blah, blah. But with the coronavirus lockdown, and then with that Wendy's social media post about Snyder Cut, I felt like, and then a bunch of people writing into me about it, I felt like, you know, circumstances have changed. And under the new circumstances, where everybody's stuck at home and everybody's looking for some fun and everybody's looking for something to make them smile and everybody's looking for something to make them feel good for a little while, what harm would it do to Warner Brothers just to take the cut that exists, even though it's not a completed theatrical version, just take it as it is and release it and give a bunch of people some joy? Like, why not? I honestly, I really can't think of a good reason why not. We are far enough away now from when Justice League originally came out. Justice League, the DCU has changed direction now anyway, so it's no skin off anybody's nose. And it would give a lot of people who I think bordering on insanity, but have been very passionate about wanting to see a Snyder Cut, however it is, and just release it. Give some people some happiness. Give some people something to get excited about. Give some people some joy. Even if it's crap, who cares? You know, I just think, why not under these circumstances? So, you know, when old news stories like the Snyder Cut come face to face with new circumstances, it makes it worth revisiting. And I kind of felt like with all the people writing in about it, with the Wendy's thing and with the coronavirus thing, I just felt like it was something worth revisiting at the time. And I stand by it. I stand by it. And you know what's funny? Here's the funny thing. All these people, I get so many people who've been arguing with me till they were blue in the face, insisting there was a fully complete, theatrically ready to go, all post-production done version of Snyder Cut. Told that exists. I keep telling them, no, it doesn't. I mean, a cut exists, but a fully finished, completed, all post-production work, 100% ready for theaters and release complete version does not exist. And I've had all these people insisting to me there is, right? But as soon as I said the other day, just release it even though it's unfinished, a bunch of those people started tweeting to me again saying, no, Warner Brothers should give him the $20 million he needs to finish it. And I'm like, wait a minute, time out. You've been insisting to me this whole time that it's already completely done. Now you're telling me you want Warner Brothers to give him the extra $20 million it needs to finish it. Which one is it? Anyway, it is what it is. But yeah, I think there's a lot of people out there who may even have hated the fact that for a long time I've been saying, look, I'm sorry to bust your bubble, but a fully completed, theatrically ready to be released version of the Snyder film, of the Snyder Cut, does not exist. Even though those people have been very upset with me, I say, give those people something to cheer about. Why not? Everything sucks for everybody right now. Everything sucks right now. We're all trying to make lemonade out of lemons right now under this terrible, horrible circumstance. Why not give everybody, these people who've been looking forward to this thing, give them something to cheer about. Make them feel good. Make them feel happy. Why not? Give it to them. It's no skin off your nose. Anyway, that's why I felt like it was worth bringing up again. But anyway, that's just me. All right. Next up, Damo Davies writes, when people talk about the great gangster movies, I don't hear many people talk about Alan Parker's Bugsy Malone. There's a reason for that. I adore this movie and used to watch it the last day of term in primary school on movie day along with Labyrinth. Have you seen it? Yeah, I have. So for those of you who have not heard about Bugsy Malone, it was like in the 1970s, something like this came out. It had a very young Jodie Foster and it had a young Scott Baio, Charles in Charge. And basically, the gimmick of the movie was clever. It was looking at the story of gangster Bugsy Malone, but in a movie that was entirely played, where every role was played by children. Right? So that's why you're talking, it was that long ago with like a young Jodie Foster, a young Scott Baio, stuff like that. It's clever. It's clever. I didn't think it was all that good, but I did think it was cute. It was cute and it was charming. It was charming, but I don't think, personally, Damo, just personally, I don't think you actually consider that a gangster movie, because it really was more targeted at a younger demographic as opposed to the traditional gangster movie, which skews more adult. That being said, it was a very cute kind of gimmick, and gimmick is not a dirty word. Gimmick can be used very, very well. And it was cute. It was charming. Not a movie that I feel like I have to ever watch again, but I remember watching it a couple of times when I was young. But yeah, it was all right. It was all right. Nothing wrong with it. But if you do want to see something that was like a complete departure, and just trying something really, really different, taking the gangster movie genre, flipping it on its ear by doing a gangster movie, but it's all cast with children. It was an interesting experiment. It was a really interesting experiment. And you might want to actually give it a shot and check it out just to see what it's like, and then try to imagine them doing a movie like that today. Like, imagine them doing Scarface, but only entirely cast with children actors. It's an interesting thing to think about. I don't think anybody, Damo, on this show has ever brought up Bugsy Malone. I don't think anybody's ever brought up that up. So I think you were the first person ever on any show I've ever done to bring that one up. So good on you. All right, Damo also writes, when people talk about Michael Jackson's masterpiece in the short film music videos, they seem to think that Thriller is the standard which he has never topped. I beg to differ. His Smooth Criminal video in the 1930s nightclub is an epic masterwork. Oh, that video is great. That video is great. I love the Smooth Criminal video. And you know what other video he did that was really wonderful? Black and White. That one doesn't get a lot of attention. Where it's where the different, because you got to also remember the visual effects at the time was great. It was when everybody was morphing from character to character. It's also just a great song. I love the song. But while the Smooth Criminal video is amazing, while I believe the Black and White video is great, Thriller, I think, is a standard that has never been matched. I think Thriller is a standard that's never been matched. I mean, I know for me personally, it was the first music video that I saw that was really made like a short film. And it is. It's basically a short film. You can almost call it a short film more than calling it a music video. And then the end of the video with the head turn, and the Vincent Price laugh as only Vincent Price could. I gotta say, Damo, I love the Smooth Criminal thing. I actually still think Thriller is like the standard bearer as far as that goes. Now, I'm not going to get into all the controversy about Michael Jackson here or there. We're talking about the music video, but I think the music video itself was, I think is still to this day the standard. But that's a good one too, man. That's a really good one too. All right, Damo also writes, forget Joker, forget Sauron, and forget Lord Voldemort. When it comes to villains, Louise Fletcher's Nurse Ratched from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest stands alone. She is all kinds of evil and plays it in all too real ways. She deserved the Oscar. I tell you what, I remember Nurse Ratched. We did one of our March Movie Madness tournaments we did one year was about movie villains. And Nurse Ratched was on that. And I think even advanced, if I'm remembering it correctly, and I may not be, I think she advanced pretty far in the tournament. I think Nurse Ratched advanced pretty far in the tournament. I mean, obviously it came down to the bigger ones. It came down to Vader and Hans Gruber, and I think Hannibal Lecter was in there too, but Nurse Ratched was in there. And absolutely, Rob discusses, because Rob loves One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Like, absolutely loves that. I mean, that, Clockwork Orange, things like that are just huge to him. But I think that's a good one. That one, whenever you get into a discussion about the greatest villains of all time, Nurse Ratched's name often comes up, and for good reason. That's a good one to pick out there, Damo. All right, James Durden writes, 5 favorite and recommended 1980s movies. Number 1, An Officer and a Gentleman, Richard Gere, Louis Gossett Jr. Louis Gossett Jr., by the way, won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor that year, and he was, do I look like a you, boy? And he was so good in that. Love lifts us up where we... Anyway, 2, Enemy Mine. We talked about that one the other day. The Last Starfighter. God, if there was one movie that should be remade today, it's The Last Starfighter. Number 4, Beetlejuice. Number 5, Full Metal Jacket. Excellent list there, dude. Excellent list. But man, it just reminds me that Last Starfighter needs a remake. If there was ever a movie that was begging for a remake, I think it's The Last Starfighter. With the that was a movie that was ahead of its time. With the popularity of video games today, with what you could do with that movie with visual effects today, it is time for a Last Starfighter remake. It is time for a Last Starfighter remake. Please, somebody make that Last Starfighter remake. Anyway, Tree Ant Do writes, number 1 and 2, John, I heard you mention Grave of the Fireflies. That is just saying the name punches me in the balls. Oh my God, that is a brilliant but painful film. Oh my God, in all the most brilliant ways. Anyway, a few times, so I decided to make my pick for family quarantine movie night. Wow, I have never been impacted so much by a film in my life. Been a few days and I still can't stop thinking about it. Grave of the Fireflies surpassed Saving Private Ryan as my idea of a perfect war film. It's not a glorious battle between good and evil. It's a series of small, sad events not caused by any individual force, which ultimately ends in a tragedy. It is haunting. Yeah, I don't know that I qualify. It comes down to semantics, but I don't think I qualify Grave of the Fireflies as a war movie. Just because a movie happens in a setting of war, I don't think that makes it a war movie. A war movie is really when the movie is about the war. You know, you look at Saving Private Ryan or Full Metal Jacket or some of the other great ones. It's just not, or a Platoon. It's just not Thin Red Line. It's something different. So I don't qualify it as a war movie. That aside, that semantic debate aside, Grave of the Fireflies is haunting. I mean, you use the word haunting and you're absolutely right. But it's just one of those movies that is so unbelievably masterfully made. Grave of the Fireflies is a masterfully made movie. I will never watch it again. I will never watch it again. I was overwhelmed by both its brilliance, but oh my God, I don't drink, and I wanted to drink after watching that movie. Like, I wanted to drink copious amounts of adult beverages after watching that movie. It is so, it's just tragic. The movie is just pure tragedy. And the ending is one that's like, everything hurt. And again, that takes nothing away from the brilliance of the film. And any of you who have seen Grave of the Fireflies, you know exactly what we're talking about. But for those of you who haven't, it's one of those movies that I recommend 2 very weird things. Number 1, watch this movie. Number 2, never watch it again. I mean, it's weird, but it's got a little bit of a Schindler's List-ism to it. Although even more tragic is the way the ending haunts you. You know, it's just Grave of the Fireflies. I would never recommend watching it for a family night. I mean, you know your family as well as you do. I don't know your family, so maybe it was perfect for them. But generally speaking, if anybody were to ask me, do you think Grave of the Fireflies, because it's a cartoon, you think it's good for a family night? No. Oh my God, no. No, never show that one to your I don't know, but that's kind of two very weird recommendations. Watch it. Recommendation number 2, don't watch it again. That's how I feel about it. Trey Andu also writes, John, have you seen Garden of Words on Netflix? No, I am not familiar with that one. Most visually stunning animated film I have seen. Synopsis. When a lonely teenager skips his morning lessons to sit in a lovely garden, he meets a mysterious older woman who shares his feelings of alienation. No, but that sounds beautiful. Actually, let me pull that one up. Let me look this one up here. What's it called again? Garden of Words. I like the sound of it. Garden of Words. When a lonely teenager skips his morning, he shares a sense of alienation. It looks kind of anime style in a way in the thing of it, but that looks it looks gorgeous. I've not even heard of this one. Its original name was Koto no Ha no Niwa. Garden of Words is a 2013 film. Apparently it is available on Netflix. I have not even heard of this thing. So thank you for mentioning that, and thank you for bringing it up. It is now officially on my radar. I may have to check that one out. Thank you for the recommendation, dude. All right, next one up. Damo Davies writes, Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me, U2 song used in that Batman film, or used in, yes. And Kissed by a Rose. Both songs are better than the movie. They support Batman Forever. But which is your favorite? I like both, but the U2 song pips it for me. You and your wife, please stay safe. We are staying safe. Thank you very much for your well wishes. Listen, obviously U2 is my favorite band of all time, and I like the Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me song a lot. But Kissed by a Rose, I think that's the better song. I mean, Kissed by a Rose is one of probably my top 50 all-time favorite songs by Seal. By the way, if any of you guys have seen Superstar, Never Stop, Never Stopping, the movie by Lonely Island, how funny is Seal's appearance in that movie? How funny is Seal's appearance in that movie? I think his appearance is hilarious in that film. But yeah, I will lean towards, even though U2's my all-time favorite band, I'm going to lean towards Kissed by a Rose. But in the way only Seal can sing it, I'm going to lean towards that song, Damo. All right. Hippie Day Daddies Show Tits. What the hell does that mean? Wrong website. Wait, does that mean that right now somewhere there's a cam girl trying to explain how Universal could rebuild a healthy business relationship with the theater owners post Trolls 2 drama? Oh no, what have I done? I have no idea what we're talking about, Hippie Daddy. Sorry about that. I feel like there's a joke in there, and that's probably funny, but I'm missing what it is you're trying to get at. Sorry about that, dude. All right, Glenn Tracy writes, "Hey John, I really enjoyed Bad Boys 3. I enjoyed it too, and thought it was worth the wait. However, one thing that pissed me off, without spoilers, there should be a Justice for Han-like response for you-know-what character." Oh, I know what character. "Outside of the two main stars, he was phenomenal." Yes? Cypher from The Matrix. Yeah. Yeah, and believe you me, Glenn, for those of you who've seen, I'll try to say this as cryptically as possible, so those of you who've seen Bad Boys know what we're talking about, and those of you who've not seen Bad Boys, I won't be spoiling anything, but I heard from a lot of people that were very unhappy with the way the end of Bad Boys 3 kind of happened because of what happened earlier in the film, directly referencing what it is you're talking about. And yeah, man, I've heard, you're not alone, Glenn. I've heard from another people that think a Justice for Han movie, a Justice for Han moment is needed for that, and they were not real thrilled with the way that ended. Even though people who really like the movie, not happy with that ending. So we'll see how they handle this moving forward, because there is going to be a Bad Boys 4, and we'll see how they handle that as we move forward. All right. 50 Shades of Geek writes, "I love Mark Ellis." Of course, Mark Ellis did a guest spot on the show the other day, giving his movie recommendations on the John Campea Show. "But watching any Paranormal Activity movie at a time when we're not allowed to leave our homes is a big no from me. I still have nightmares from The Invisible Man." What was that? Yeah, true. Watch The Invisible Man again the other night, by the way. What a great little film. And always remind yourself of this, guys. They made that movie for $7 million. I bet if a lot of other studios had made that exact same movie, it would have been like $39 million or $50 million. Blumhouse finds a way to make compelling, great little stories and do them with really good production value and do it for very little money. Hollywood needs to learn some lessons from these guys. But you're not wrong. I remember when he brought up Paranormal, I remember thinking to myself, woo, that's an interesting one to make people watch when they're stuck in their houses, but hey, it's still a good one. It's still a good one. All right, next up, 50 Shades also writes, "Speaking of which, I love that you're bringing on all your old friends from the past life for the movie recommendation segment. Any chance we could see Dennis, Riley, Dorina, or even John Roca?" I don't know about that. Like, I'm not going out of my way. Again, you will never see me try to recreate the AMC days. I've moved on from that. But that doesn't mean, and listen, from the day that I did AMC, one of the things I'm very happy with, I was able to discover and really help promote a lot of very smart, talented people in the movie punditry sphere now, and help give them a boost in what they're doing. A lot of great people that are out there doing their own things now, and that's awesome. But, and while I may from time to time, get Christian, you know, me and Christian will do things together from time to time anyway. Or if I can grab a Mark Ellis, or if I can grab a Dennis. I had Dennis in here. You know, I had Dennis in here about a month or two ago. Dennis was a guest on the John Campea Show for a day because I just love Dennis. But no, you're probably never going to see me try to recreate what was, you know. I don't feel like I need that. I don't feel like they need that. And I don't feel like there's ever a way to kind of do that. But for little guest spots here and there, I think you're going to see a lot of people. And there's no reason that, you know, that a Dennis would be excluded from that or whatever. But I'm not going to go out of my way specifically just to go get old AMC and Collider people to do it, you know. You'll probably see from time to time the odd old AMC or Collider person pop up, but only in the mix of other people as well. So anyway, there's that. But it's always good having guys like a Mark Ellis pop on too. That's always true. All right. Lucifer writes, "Hello, John. As someone who has binged The Next Generation at least a dozen times and a lover of the show Picard, all I'll say, in case you haven't watched the last episode, it left me emotionally destroyed, but in a good way." Yep, I have not seen the last episode yet. And I'm with you. I've seen all the episodes of Next Generation multiple times, maybe not 12 times over like you have, though, I must admit. And I'm really enjoying Picard right now, and I'm very much looking forward to watching the season finale. All I know is that, you know, Patrick Stewart got on social media the other day saying looking forward to starting season 2, so we'll see where they're going to go with that, but I have not seen the final episode yet, so please don't spoil it for me. I'm looking forward to watching it myself. All right, thanks for sharing that, Lucifer. All right, Darklock63 writes, "Just a recommendation. Get a looter shooter for PC and connect a wired/wireless controller. If the fingers still don't work, you can always go back to keyboard and mouse and not have a game collect dust." Yeah, so that's always been one of my big things. For those of you who don't know what Darklock's talking about, I am a PC gamer. I cannot I just can't do controllers. I need a keyboard and mouse. It's just every time I try to do a game, not counting like Mario games or whatever that are very simple controls, but I have always had a very, very difficult time trying to play like legit console games, like more harder core console games. Let me look this up. What is a looter shooter? What is a looter shooter? I'm not quite sure. Is that a genre of game? Is that a genre? Oh, yeah, it must be a genre of games because I'm coming across things like top 10 best looter. I'll admit, I've never heard the term looter shooter, what that means specifically. But I'm guessing it's like a first-person shooter type of genre. But anyway, I will investigate it. Darklock, I'll investigate what it is you're talking about. So thank you for the recommendation. Everybody's always trying to get me, figure out ways to help me become a better console gamer. Because I can't do it. I can't do it. I've tried so many times and I always come back just keyboard and mouse. That's what I like to do. But I will give it a shot, Darklock. I will take your advice and I will give it a shot. Thanks for thinking of me. I appreciate that, man. All right. Leo Milmet writes, "Thanks for turning me on to Lucifer. I'm on season 3 and loving it. I could watch an hour of Lucifer, Ella, Maze, Dr. Harris, Chloe, Dan, and a meta deal just around talking whatever. It's my new guilty pleasure show." It's not a guilty pleasure show. It's a brilliant show. No guilty pleasure here. Also, Ella is the sweetest TV character. Absolutely. You can just eat her up. Oh my God. Just eat her up. Absolutely. Anyway, so excited for season 5. And they just recently announced they cleared all the hurdles for season 6, which is great because season 5 was theoretically going to be the final season. Well, 3 was going to be the final season. Then Netflix saved it. They got a season 4. Then they announced season 5 and said, season 5 is going to be the last season. Okay, they're going to do season 5. But now all the news just came out that everybody has signed up and agreed to do a season 6. So we'll see if they actually pull the trigger and do that. But it looks like we're going to get season 6. Very excited for it. I'm glad you got turned on to it. I love that show. I absolutely love it. The dialogue is crisp and sharp. The characters are great. I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Okay. Anyway, next up, 50 Shades of Geek writes, "Do you feel like your passion for talking about movies has gone down a bit since the virus situation started? Since there are no new movies coming out or many movies in production, I feel like it's happened to me. Not at all. And I'll tell you why. I think I know why it hasn't. Because for the most part, I don't do a lot of movie reviews. I do some movie reviews, but I don't do a lot of movie reviews, right? When you talk about the John Campea Show, a lot of stuff, even when we're not in the Corona situation, where a lot of the talk that we do is about bigger topics, like overarching topics, or like movies coming up like a year from now or whatever. Like that's a lot. Like not a lot of the John Campea Show is made. Some of it is, but not a lot of it is made up of talking about movies that are in the theaters right now. We do a little bit. And so one of the really strange things I can't remember, I was talking to Rob or one of my other friends the other day about how when it comes time, because a little bit later tonight, I have to put together my show notes for tomorrow. I was really expecting putting together the show notes now for a daily John Campea Show was going to become very tough. It was going to become very difficult. It hasn't been. There's so much to talk about. And now that we're kind of in this situation, it's shifted a little bit about new things to talk about, like different areas of things that maybe we didn't talk about as much, but there still remains a lot of stuff to talk about. For example, production shut down right now, but new movies are getting planned. So like one of the topics we're going to be talking about on the John Campea Show tomorrow is Ryan Reynolds is apparently going to produce and star in a Dragon's Lair movie. What? So that's clearly, and it's true, by the way, I didn't just make that up. That's true. With the old video game Dragon's Lair, apparently Ryan Reynolds is going to be producing and starring in that. That's going to be something we talk about tomorrow. I have yet to have a hard time filling out a show. It's weird, but it's true. And I'll tell you what, with there being fewer new movies for me to watch, it's only making me feel even more passionate about talking about movies, because I feel like I've got this movie hunger and this movie discussion hunger in me that it's only getting more intense for the fact that we don't have 3 new movies opening in theaters every single week. It's just the lack of that is just making me even more hungry to talk about it with the film fan community. So far, no lack of stuff to talk about. All right, we move on now here. Kylis Menon sends in a $50 super chat. Dude, thank you so much for supporting the channel on that level. And what we do is, of course, I'm going to answer your question right now if there is a question in here. And then, of course, we will give your question its own standalone video on the YouTube channel in the next week or two. Keep your eyes open for that. All right, so thank you for supporting us on that level, dude. Kylis writes, "Hey, John, today's my birthday. Happy birthday, dude. May you have a fabulous day and may you have a fabulous year full of triumph and victory ahead of you, my friend." All right. And I am sending in money to help you during these hard times. I appreciate that, dude. I really do. And myself, Robert, Jonathan, Ray, everybody who gets partially supported by this channel, thanks you for your support. My question for you is about the new Dune movie. Could we have too high expectations for the movie if we read the book first and from the leaked footage? Well, the first thing you should say to something like that is this. Any movie you're looking forward to, you could have too high expectations for. But expectations is what we as it is a natural thing. Having high, mid, low expectations for a movie, particularly ones that we're looking forward to coming out, is a natural part of film fandom. The problem and trouble is that sometimes our expectations and excitement are so high that very few films can meet those expectations, and we run the risk that even if the movie's really good, we may walk out feeling a little underwhelmed. Even if the movie we just went in and saw was maybe a top 10 film of the year, it wasn't a top 3 film of all time, and therefore we walk out a little. Expectations can bite us in the ass as film fans. It happens. High expectations can, low expectations, whatever. Expectations can bite us in the ass, and that is a danger. Now, you get to something like Dune. That is a celebrated piece of source material. You've got one of the most celebrated directors right now, and Denis Villeneuve. Everybody's excited about this dude for good reason. All he does is he crouches over and craps out excellence. That's what he does. You've got an incredible cast being led by a kid who I think could be the next Daniel Day-Lewis in Timothée Chalamet. This kid's amazing. There's no Oscars on his mantle yet, and maybe he'll fall off the deep end, but right now he's on a trajectory. I believe that he could be the next Daniel Day-Lewis in 10 or 15 years. A terrific supporting cast around it. So you've got all of that. Amazing source material. Incredible filmmaker right now. A great stacked cast. Of course, a lot of film fans are going to be extremely hyped and psyched and excited about this project. Absolutely, and it's completely understandable. Could that excitement bite us in the ass? Yes, but no more than any movie we get excited about. No more than any movie we get excited about. Because one of the things we've got to keep in mind is, as great as the source material is for Dune, we have to remember it has been very difficult for... It's proven to be a piece of source material that has been problematic translating on screen. Very problematic translating on screen. We've seen several people take shots at it, right? To varying results. But it has proven to be problematic. And we need to keep that in mind too. So let us not create the sin of expecting this is going to be easy to make this a great movie. Oh, this is easily going to be a great movie. No. Let's cut the filmmakers, Denis Villeneuve, all these guys a lot of slack in understanding that this has proven to be trouble to translate this one into a really overall great, satisfying on-screen experience that everybody can love and adore. Let's keep that in mind. So my hopes are sky high. My expectations, though, I got to tell you, are a little bit more tempered. Hey, man, listen, if Denis Villeneuve can just create a good movie out of this, I think that's a big win. So hopes sky high, expectations tempered. That's how I'm personally approaching it. So we'll wait and see. Anyway, Kaz, thanks for sending that in. And again, in a couple of weeks, you're going to see that answered again in its own standalone video on the YouTube channel. Thank you for sending that in. All right, let's move on now to the next one. David Crabtree writes, on a special features recommendation, the full cast and director commentary on the 40-Year-Old Virgin DVD, a pure joy to listen to. There's a great story that Seth Rogen and Leslie Mann tell about filming Leslie getting drunk on a night out for research, which sounds great. I have not seen this. What is this? It's a special on the full cast and director commentary of the 40. I've not listened to the director commentary, which may strike you as a complete surprise because 40-Year-Old Virgin is my all-time favorite comedy, and I have never listened to the commentary on it. And I really should. And I actually feel very grateful right now that you're reminding me that I've never gotten around to listening to the commentary on it, because I got to do that. Now you've just given me something really great to look forward to. So I am looking forward to that. Okay, guys. Hey, listen, here's what we're going to do. We've gone for about an hour and 20 minutes now. I'm going to take a quick short break here. I'm going to stretch my legs, rest the vocal cords. I'm going to go down, refill my drink. So if you guys will hang tight with me for just a couple of minutes, we will be right back. Don't go anywhere. Go use the bathroom. We'll see you in just a couple of minutes. right, guys, and we are back. Thank you so much for your patience and indulgence as I took a little bit of a break there. All right, now let's keep right on rolling. We're going to start getting things picked up here with Dave XP, who writes, Chaos Walking, oh boy, Chaos Walking, Daisy Ridley, Tom Holland, was supposed to be released this year. I guess we'll never get to see that train wreck. No, we'll see it. It was supposed to be released last year, and it was completely unwatchable. I've got people associated with the movie, like on set, that told me that movie's just unwatchable. At least it was. But Daisy Ridley was then too busy to do any reshoots to try to fix the film. Then that had to get pushed off. It got pushed off its release date. I mean, we'll see it in theaters eventually. And I am very curious to see what this turns into, because the premise of the movie sounds very interesting. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But it'll get shown one way or the other. All right, Dave XP also writes, John, who would win in a fight, Bloodshot or Dominic Toretto? Well, if Dominic Toretto would win. Again, if I'm writing it, clearly Bloodshot wins. Clearly. He's a metahuman. I mean, clearly he wins. But if Vin Diesel is involved and he's a producer on it, Dominic Toretto does not lose to anything. Dominic Toretto could fight the asteroid from Armageddon, and Dominic Toretto would win. I mean, that's just the way it is. So if Vin Diesel's involved, Dominic Toretto wins the fight, even if it's against another Vin Diesel character like Bloodshot. Dominic Toretto wins. All right, Kylis Menon writes, also, who's your favorite late night host ever? That's easy. Mine is Conan and Letterman, although the latter are retired. It's Letterman. Letterman's my all-time favorite. Now, granted, he was ruling late night when I was younger and all that kind of stuff, but everything from his top 10 lists and all that kind of stuff, there's something about Letterman's intellect and humor and the way he mixed the two and melded the two that I always just found really super appealing. And so, yeah, and that's why I really love that show of his on Netflix, which I think is called My Next Guest or whatever it is. I mean, dude had, Barack Obama. I mean, there's just something about him I have always found infinite appealing, even if he's got a really creepy beard right now. And he does. David Letterman right now is sporting like the creepiest of beards, but whatever. I've always liked that guy. He is my all-time favorite late night host. Anyway, thanks for asking, man. All right, Lord Vanderkill writes, TV show suggestion, Penny Dreadful. I watched the first Penny Dreadful series. They're doing another one, by the way, a completely different cast, and I think a different time period or whatever, but I watched the first series. There were times that I loved it and times that I just kept watching so I could get through it. I do know this, though. The ending of the series finale, actually even the entire last season, felt very abrupt to me for some reason. It felt very abrupt. And I've heard a number of other people, but I know some friends that think like Penny Dreadful, for a lot of people I know, is like in a top 5 like all-time favorite shows. And I enjoyed it. And I watched the whole thing. It was a little hit and miss for me, though. There were times where it was absolutely stellar television, like brilliance. And then sometimes I felt like I was just getting through it. But overall, good series, and they are going to be doing another one, I understand. So it'll be interesting to keep our eyes open for that. If you've never seen it, though, you should check it out. If you've never seen it, you absolutely should give this one a chance. All right. Aditya Sajev writes, why do you think Leo DiCaprio took a 4-year break after Revenant to release a new movie? I recently saw Shutter Island and I love it. Oh, I don't know. I heard he just wanted to take a break for a while from acting. I remember we did a story on that before too, when he announced he was going to be taking a bit of a break. Leo DiCaprio. I think it could be everything from, okay, he got his Oscar. So now I can take a break. Or listen, he puts a lot of himself into it, but he's also very very, very busy. He does a lot of business stuff. When was The Revenant, by the way? The Revenant was in 2014? No, it was 2015, sorry. Revenant was 2015. And then he did Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, came out just 2 years? No, this got to be... Oh, no, it came out like 5 years later. But I think he was also getting very involved in environmental stuff. He was producing. I think he was getting his banner really out. He just dedicated a lot of his time to his own personal banner. I can't remember the name of his production company, but he started getting involved as a producer, producing behind the scenes, getting involved in his various projects. And I think he just wanted a little bit of a break. And from what I understand, The Revenant itself was a very, very intensive movie, so that's probably a lot to do with it. Jared McBride writes, the movie Cliffhanger is 27 years old. Are you serious? I love that movie. Cliffhanger is 27 years old, the Stallone one, the mountain climbing one? Are you serious? Hold a second. Cliffhanger. 93. 27 years old. Oh my goodness. That movie's great. Michael Rooker, John Lithgow as the villain in it. I love John Lithgow as a villain, by the way. I enjoy that movie a great deal. Holy crap. If you had asked me, John, how old is Cliffhanger? I might have said 15 years old. I wouldn't have said 27. I would have missed it by a long, long margin. Holy crap. Okay. J Master Legend writes, The Irishman became one of my favorite mafia movies, along with Casino and The Departed. Would you put up The Irishman up there with the best mafia movies, along with Godfather and Goodfellas? No. I think The Irishman is very good. I like The Irishman very much. It's for me personally, it is not in the league of Godfather, Goodfellas, anything like that. I would more put it on that next tier. Like maybe I still don't think it's as good as Casino. But I would say put it in the conversation with Casino, although I still think Casino's better. So no, again, I thought Irishman was very good. I thought it was too long. Some movies need to be that long. That movie didn't need that long. There was too much repetitive stuff in it and scenes that ultimately didn't have any meaning towards the overall narrative of the movie and could have been easily removed, given the movie better pace, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I still thought The Irishman was really, really good, and I enjoyed it. But I don't put it personally, and this is just me because all film is subjective. Personally, I don't put it anywhere near that list of saying, like when I get in conversations later in my life of what were the greatest monster films of all time, The Irishman's never going to come up for me. It's one of the good ones. It's a very enjoyable film. Hell, it got nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards, but it's not ever going to be in that conversation with like Godfather, Goodfellas, Casino, maybe a couple of others, but I don't personally have it on that level myself. You know what I'm saying? But there are other people who do. There are other people who do. Like obviously yourself, you consider one of your favorites, and that's great. That's the beautiful thing about movies. So I'm glad you enjoyed it that much. All right, next one up. Brandon Plummer writes, hey, John, a little confusion on the Snyder Cut thing yesterday. I agree with you. They should release it as is. It would just be fun to see fans finish parts on YouTube after the fact. Kind of like Star Wars SC-38 reimagined. Sorry for the poor wording. Oh, don't worry about that. I don't know about that. I mean, you look, anything is fun for fans to get their hands on to do something with, and it can end up being cool. I don't know if filmmakers find that offensive or not. I'm not saying they do, and I'm not saying they should. I'm just saying I wonder if filmmakers find that offensive. Like, I wonder if Zack Snyder would, you know, after putting a lot of himself into that movie, and then they release the as-is version of the Snyder Cut, I wonder if he would take offense to it if then people took that and then put in their own stuff to it. I don't know that he would. He seems to be very, very pro-fan community, so I'm not sure about that, but it would be interesting to see what would happen. It would be interesting to see what would happen. All right. Because I guess, Brandon, at the end of the day, it wouldn't be all that much different than people doing different fan cuts of movies. So I guess it wouldn't be all that different from that. So maybe there's no problem with it. I don't know. Interesting idea. All right. Man Mountain Gherkin writes, do you think it's unethical for me to buy a movie when I am also buying groceries at the same time in the context of essential shopping only? No. Now, look, if you're going to the grocery store and they have DVDs there and you're buying a DVD, no, there's nothing unethical about that. Like, what's the harm? What's the harm? You're already there buying eggs or buying, you know, pasta or whatever it is you're buying. There's nothing unethical about also grabbing something else off the shelf. So no, I do not believe there's anything unethical about that, even under the current situation. All right. So I think you're covered, Man Mountain. I think you're covered. All right, Brian Lohner also writes, Spielberg was only 28 when he made Jaws. I know, F that guy. How is this not talked about as much as Orson Welles making Citizen Kane at 25? I think on a couple levels, look, there are still a lot of people out there who, when you push them on it, there are still a bunch of people out there who will say that Citizen Kane might be the greatest movie ever made. I am not one of them. I don't even have Citizen Kane in my top 20. I mean, it's a great movie, but I don't even have it in my top 20. But there are a lot of people out there who will swear by Citizen Kane being the greatest film of all time. While Jaws is a great, iconic movie, you're not going to hear many people making the argument that Jaws is the greatest movie ever made, right? I mean, let's be fair. There's not many people out there, if anybody. I'm sure there's somebody, but very, very few people out there who will make the argument that Jaws is the all-time greatest movie ever. You do have a lot of people saying that about Citizen Kane. So that's probably what's kind of on that level, I would say. But yeah, I mean, geez, when you got a Steven Spielberg making Jaws, was he really only 28? Like, that is nuts. That is absolutely nuts. F that guy. He is the greatest filmmaker of all time. Steven Spielberg is the greatest filmmaker of all time. And yeah, just, oh my God, that's so crazy. Let's see. Where are we at here? Avery Zavala writes, X-Men Origins is my guiltiest of guilty pleasures, completely disregarded everything you know about the franchise and treating it as a standalone film. This movie is just absolutely fun to watch. If you know Sean Chandler, this is my Taco Bell movie. X-Men Origins, I'm assuming you mean X-Men Origins Wolverine? Hey, why not? Why not? If that works for you, that works. And listen, all of the X-Men films under Fox had the mentality of continuity schmontinuity. They didn't care about continuity. They had so many continuity errors in that franchise. It's not even they made mistakes. They just didn't care. They were more concerned of, this is what I want this movie to be. It doesn't matter if it contradicts a previous movie because continuity isn't that important to them. And that's fine. And it worked for them for the most part. And listen, there are things about X-Men Origins Wolverine that I think are actually quite good, right? It gave us our first little peek at a number of different techniques that they were going to use in these movies moving forward and all this kind of stuff, and wonderful. And all film is subjective. I am not one of those, Avery. I am not one of those that appreciated the movie to a great degree. I also don't think it's necessarily as bad as some other people make it out to be at the same time. But hey, man, if you watch it and it does that for you, that's the important thing. That's the important thing. And don't you apologize for liking it that much. If it has that impact on you, then that's great. All right. Phil Corvelli writes, have you watched season 3 of Ozark yet? It's fantastic. No, and I have no plans on it. Ann and I love Jason Bateman and Laura Linney, and we were very excited about Ozark. So we sat down and binged like the first 4 or 5 episodes of it one night, and then we just kind of looked at each other and we both tapped out. The show wasn't working for us. Again, that's the thing. The entertainment's subjective. There's a lot of people I know who love Ozark. And it's even won some awards and all that kind of stuff. And that's great. But all entertainment hits us differently. And even though it's got all these people involved in it, it's the type of show that I really like. We tried watching it and both my wife and I were just like, meh, it's not working for us. It's clearly working for a lot of other people, but it just didn't work for us. And so we tapped out of it. And I haven't seen the second half of season 1. I have no intention of it. I haven't seen season 2. I have no intention of watching season 2. I haven't seen season 3. I have no intention of watching season 3. But hey, there's a lot of people who are loving it and that's great. It's just not for me. So I'd rather spend my time watching stuff that I know that I like, or trying some new things coming out that I haven't tried yet, rather than trying to force myself liking something that I didn't like at first. So, and who knows, maybe if I did take the time and sit down and kept watching Ozark, maybe it would grow on me. But again, there's too much other stuff for me to watch that I haven't gotten around to, that I haven't even started yet, that deserves a shot. So yeah, that's what it is. But I'm here. Hey, listen, Phil, you're not alone, man. I'm hearing from a lot of people that they are loving that show, and that's awesome. All right. Deadlock Music writes, hey, John, spent the day binging on Swamp Thing. What a series. I can't understand why WB canceled production. Is there any way it could return? Well, First of all, I was late to watching it because I did not watch episode 1 when it dropped. Okay, I was gonna get around to it, but I didn't watch episode 1 when it dropped. And then they canceled the series. After 1 episode, they canceled the series, which I have never understood the logic to that. Like, okay, you've decided you're going to cancel it. Don't announce that. Don't hamstring this show like that. Don't announce it until maybe near the end of the first season. Because they came out and canceled the series after the first episode, and I remember it affected me greatly because I'm like, oh, well, you don't believe in your show. Why should I watch it? You know, so I never got around to watching it. It wasn't until a month, 2 months ago, when Cody Miller and his wife Allie were out here visiting Ann and I, and they were here at our place for the week. And Ray was over too, and we just ended up binge watching Swamp Thing, and it's quite good. It's quite good. So whatever their reasons are for canceling it, I have no idea. Probably more financial than anything else. But that being said, any way it could return, of course it could. I mean, absolutely. There's a way it could return. They might just have said, you know what, this show was really good. Let's give it another shot. And of course, there was a quick glimpse of Swamp Thing in the final episode of Crisis. So there's that. I mean, so yes, there is a way it could return. I don't know that it's likely, but it's possible. It's possible. But again, I have no idea what their logic was between launching the first episode and then canceling the whole series, basically turning the rest of the season to a lame duck and getting a lot of people like me who are like, oh, well, if you hate your own show that much, why should I invest any time in it? But then they eventually got around to watching it. So I don't know, but anything's possible. Anything's possible. All right. Sam O'Neill writes, let's see. There it is. Sam O'Neill writes, bought the Lord of the Rings extended edition Blu-ray box set. Watched Fellowship of the Ring last night for the first time. Tonight, like that's the first time you've seen it. Holy crap, guy. I'm jealous. I'm jealous. See, I don't get mad when I hear somebody hasn't watched a classic movie. I get jealous because you, sir, get to do something I will never again get to do for the rest of my life, which is watch the Lord of the Rings films for the first time. I'll never be able to do that again. So I'm filled with a little bit of jealousy. And you watched the Fellowship of the Ring last night. Awesome movie. Two Towers. All 3 movies nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. Sam, you're in for a treat, my friend. I'm glad you're getting around to watching those. All right, Chris Warden writes, John, you definitely should watch Altered Carbon. Nope, no interest, thank you. It's a fun, high-concept sci-fi with great action, and I give it my personal stamp of approval. After all, I think I was one of the first to recommend The Expanse to you, LOL. Yeah, and I did watch The Expanse. The Expanse is another example of a show that I didn't have a lot of interest in. I had enough people hound me about it. Fine, I'll check it out. And I love it. I love The Expanse. Harley Quinn is another show that's like that. Had no intention of watching it, watched it, and I love it. But I just heard from too many people that I know that have similar tastes to me that watched Altered Carbon and they didn't like it. And I looked at the previews for it. It's like, this isn't working for me. So I'll be honest with you, I'm probably not going to watch Altered Carbon. Again, I'm not saying anything bad about our Altered Carbon. I've never seen it. So I can't say a single bad word about it. I'm saying it doesn't look like something that appeals to me. And I've got a few friends of mine who told me they don't believe I would like the show. And I've got, again, there's so much stuff that I haven't watched yet that does look appealing to me, that I'm not going to bump something out of line that does look like it might appeal to me for something like Altered Carbon, which doesn't look like it appeals to me. Again, I'm not saying a single bad thing about the show because I haven't seen it. But I just got too much other stuff to watch, Chris. I just have too much other stuff to watch. But I am sure there are a lot of people watching this show who are hearing you and others talking about Altered Carbon, and you are probably encouraging other people to go give it a shot for the first time. And that's always one of the good things about recommendations on this show, is that it's not just to me, it's to everybody else watching. And hopefully, because of your recommendation, a bunch of other people are going to find a show that they love in Altered Carbon. Fingers crossed. All right. Next up, Plorkins McPlorster writes, hey, John, looks like you forgot about the Discord channel. Are we ever getting a post-show chat again? Just wondering. Also, what announcements were you going to make last Friday to Patreon supporters? You hinted at something personal. Yeah, that's still coming. Something happened that delayed the announcement. That's still coming. I'm not going to say it right here, right now. As far as the post-show chat, I mentioned this on the Facebook thing a while ago. I don't know that we're going to be returning to it anytime soon for a couple of reasons. Here's the struggle. Let me share with you guys a struggle that I'm having. Here's a struggle that I have. We have the most incredible group of dedicated and supportive Patreon supporters on this show and on this channel. It is, as Rob would put it, it's an embarrassment of riches. The people who support this show, and it's just amazing. And the big struggle I have always had. The big struggle I've always had is that finding ways to really, what's the best word? Give value to people who support my channel on Patreon, because we have a bunch of Patreon supporters, and believe me, like through good months or bad months, good seasons and bad seasons, we've always been able to keep the show running and going and have people like Rob and Jonathan, in fact, and Ray doing all the stuff they do. And because of that core group of Patreon supporters that have always been there and allowed us to keep moving forward no matter what. And I can't overstate how important that has been. And something, and I've talked to the Patreon supporters about this before, one of the things I really struggle with is that because I am so worked to the neck right now, I struggle with how do I give perks to our Patreon supporters? And I've always struggled with that, because I'm going to tell you straight up, I'm bad at it. I'm not gonna pull punches. I'm not gonna pretend otherwise. I'm bad at it. I really am. And I've always struggled. Now, my Patreon supporters, whenever I've talked to my Patreon supporters about that, they've always been, hey, listen, Campea, we're not here. We're here because we want to support the channel. We're not here so you give us stuff, which I've appreciated that attitude to no end. I've appreciated that attitude to no, I really have. But that doesn't take away from the fact that I struggle with always trying to find ways to show my appreciation to our Patreon supporters. Now, we have a couple of base things for our Patreon supporters. We have our Facebook group, which is super active and always great, and I love that. We have audio-only podcasts, because I get asked by a lot of people all the time, John, where can I get the podcast of the show? It's like, it's for Patreons. It's for our Patreon supporters. So we have that there as well. And I try to give, like, any big announcements and everything, always go to the Patreon supporters first, and blah, 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 that sort of thing. So one of the things that we tried doing was we launched a Discord server and to do some stuff. And I had all these grand ideas about what we could do with it. The reality is, though, and one of the things that we were doing for a while was that after the John Campea Show, which now I'm just, like I said, I'm up to the neck in responsibilities. I just haven't had much time. But on top of that, despite the fact that we have hundreds and hundreds of Patreon supporters, we would do this John Campea Show post-show chat over on the Discord server. And I would talk about it on the show. Hey, guys, for those of you Patreon supporters, don't forget we've got the John Campea post-show chat over on the Discord server. Come on over and join us. And despite doing that, I think we were averaging five people out of the hundreds and hundreds of Patreon supporters that we have. We were averaging like maybe 5 or 6 people would come over, of our Patreon supporters would come over and actually participate in the post-show chat, which sent a message to me that the vast majority of our Patreon supporters didn't care about a John Campea Show post-show chat. And as I started getting busier, especially with me doing the movie, it kind of dropped on the priority list. And then I talked about on Facebook, guys, I said, I think I'm going to put the post-show chats on hiatus for a bit because no one's attending it, and I've got the movie to do on top of all the other responsibilities. And so I did that, which leaves me again in a place of feeling like an absolute knob. Like listen, I don't have the most Patreon supporters in the world, but I have the most dedicated core group of Patreon supporters anywhere, out of anybody. And my Patreon supporters don't do it for the perks they get, clearly, because I suck at giving perks and all that kind of stuff and trying to come up with creative perks that the majority of our Patreon supporters want to use. I absolutely suck at it, and I've been terrible. So clearly they're all just here because they want to support the channel, which I can't be more thankful for. But it's funny you bring that up because Ann and I were on a walk the other night, and one of the things I brought up was I've got to come up with a way. Sorry, guys, my throat's been killing me the last couple of days because I've been talking so much. I've got to come up with a way that I can come up with good ideas for perks for the Patreon supporters that is appealing to the Patreon supporters, and that I also legitimately have the time to do. So it's got to be both those things. It's got to be the Patreon supporters would value it, and it's got to be something that I can legitimately have the time to do. And it's been awful. It's been awful because I'm terrible. I look at a lot of other guys in different areas, who do different things, like whether they're musicians or whatever, who come up with all these great ideas for perks for their Patreon supporters, and I absolutely suck at it. And which is why I'm still amazed that we have Patreon supporters, to be honest with you, but they're so important to what we do here. And it's just incredible that they have continued to support the channel. And whenever I bring it up, and I bring it up on the YouTube channel or on the Facebook group, I just bring up, guys, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying to come up with stuff, and everybody's like, Campea, who cares? We're Patreon supporters because we want to support the channel. Because we like the channel, we want to make sure it's able to stay healthy. We want to make sure you're able to do the things you need to do. And I am forever grateful for it. But don't think for a second that it's stopped me from trying to come up with new ways. But if I do come up with something that only 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 of our Patreon supporters find valuable, then I need to change gears because I can't invest time into something if not a larger chunk of our Patreon supporters find it useful. Right? So I got to come up with stuff. So I'm always open to our Patreons and everything else. I am open to suggestions. If you got some ideas about how I can make you being a Patreon supporter a more enjoyable experience, and you don't have to write to me and say, John, we're just here to support you. I appreciate that. I do. And I know that. You don't need to tell me that. I so appreciate it. But if you as Patreon supporters can think of some ways that I can make being a Patreon supporter a more fun experience, please send me your suggestions. Just email me at john@thejohncampeashow.com. Let me know your idea because I am so open to suggestions on that. I am so open to suggestions. So we'll see where we go. Anyway, thanks for asking, Plorkins. Totally fair question to ask, dude. Totally fair question to ask. But that's the story behind it. Anyway, and as far as the announcement that I'm going to be making, maybe Monday. Tomorrow. I think tomorrow will be able to, nothing earth shattering. It's nothing earth shattering. Ann and I aren't having a kid, and I'm not about to, go back to Collider or anything like that. Nothing earth shattering, but just a fun little personal kind of announcement. I will make it to our Patreon supporters first, and then I'll make it to everybody else. So thank you for remembering that. All right, next up, Kiona Tang writes, rewatch Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Love that movie. Last night it was nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. Haven't seen it in years. It's an amazing movie that people should definitely check out, especially while we're all stuck at home. Thanks for all that you do, John. Keep up the great work. And absolutely, Crouching Tiger, actually, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was nominated for Best Picture the same year. It was either nominated for Best Picture the same year that Gladiator was, or I think it was nominated. Let me just look this up. Gladiator. Let me just pull this up here. I think it was 2000. Let me bring it up. Okay. Gladiator won Best Picture at the movie came out in 2000, so it was at the 2001 Academy Awards, and it won Best Picture. It was nominated against, where's the Best Picture? Actor, set director, cinematography, costume design, director, documentary short, visual effects, best film editing, foreign language, best makeup, best original score, best song, best picture. Yes, it was the 2001 Academy Awards that Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon was nominated for Best Picture. Good batch of films that year, too. Listen to these nominees. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Gladiator, Aaron Brockovich, Traffic, and Chocolat, or Chocolate, Johnny Depp, with I forget the name of the actress in it, but Johnny Depp movie, Chocolat, as they say in Man, I Love You. Man, I Love You? Is that what the name of Man, I Love You? Anyway, yeah, love that movie. It's a totally good recommendation. Good on you for bringing that one up. Okay, next up, Casinema Reviews writes, what do Outbreak 1995 and Transformers Dark of the Moon have in common? In both, the actions of Patrick Dempsey nearly lead to the end of the world. Watched Outbreak last night with my parents last night. I really enjoyed it. And what a stacked cast. Dude, what an incredible cast in that movie. Like from top to bottom, it is an incredibly stacked cast. I love that movie. Like the big debate going on right now is what's the best movie for our time right now? Is it Contagion or is it Outbreak? To me, it's Outbreak. I just love that one. And you're right. Patrick Dempsey nearly ends the world in both films. Didn't even think about it that way. That's a good little trivia question, Casinema. I like that. All right, Garrett Couch writes, watched a movie the other day called Terminal. Margot Robbie, Simon Pegg, and Mike Myers all together in a pretty good plot twisty movie. Good to watch. I was at the world premiere of that movie. I was there and I got to meet Margot Robbie at the after party, and Mike Myers. I didn't get to talk to Mike Myers that night because I was too scared to go up to talk to him because, you know, we're not worthy. I don't know why. I had no problem walking up and introducing myself to Margot Robbie, but I couldn't bring myself. Simon Pegg was there. It is a very plot twisty movie and I liked it, but it also, I don't know, it was wanting a little bit in its execution. Yeah, but again, very good. It was almost, you know what it felt like to me? It felt like a cross between a Quentin Tarantino film and an M. Night Shyamalan film. That's what it kind of felt like to me. If you can imagine what that's like, that's kind of what Terminal felt like a little bit. And again, there's some weird twists that come out of nowhere. Simon Pegg is actually really good. Well, they're all good in it. Margot Robbie's good in it. Mike Myers is good in it. Simon Pegg is actually really quite good in it. But just overall, I didn't feel like the movie was great. It wasn't great. But it was interesting. It was definitely an interesting film. And not a lot of people saw it. It got a very, very limited theatrical release. Very limited. So that's actually good. I'm surprised you saw it, Garrett. Good on you for mentioning it. All right, Chris Warden writes, also, did you see the pics in New York City yesterday of crowds of people out in parks? For F's sake, people, this is serious and people can die. Stay the F home. I don't get it. Like Ann and I, we will go out for walks around the block and, you know, around because the streets are empty, right? The streets are empty. Every 10 or 15 minutes, we'll see somebody else on the sidewalk and either they will cross the street or we will cross the street. Simple. Everybody maintaining good social distancing, especially with New York. Now, I haven't seen the pictures, Chris, but especially with New York, with that being like the epicenter right now of this whole outbreak. Going into, I don't care if the crowded place is outdoors or indoors. Going into crowded places is not a good idea. All right. It's one thing if you want to go out and walk your dog and there's nobody on the street and you're able to avoid people and maintain 6 feet of distance, all that. That's one thing. But this whole thing of these idiots going to the beach, well, we're outside, so it's fine. Or going to a crowded park. I get it. Everybody's going stir crazy. I get it. Everybody's going stir crazy right now. It's, yeah, I don't understand. I don't understand why people can be that dumb right now. Anyway, Jake Iyer writes, where'd Jake go? There he is. Grace Randolph reported that Disney could be releasing Mulan and Black Widow on VOD soon. What are the chances this happens? Stay safe. Very, very low. Especially with the new movies coming out on VOD and they're not making close to the amount of money that thought maybe it could make on VOD. Disney has also reasserted their belief that their film is a theatrical release film. And that's their belief on that. So I don't really see that changing. So listen, we are in uncharted territory right now, right? We're in uncharted territory. There are no rules right now. The rules don't apply. Regular rules don't apply about what is the smart thing to do, what's the not smart thing to do, blah, 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 blah. So anything is possible. Anything is possible. I just find it extremely highly unlikely, though, because they know they will not make anywhere close to the amount of money putting it out on VOD that they will putting it out. It's been proven over and over. Everybody can stay at home. I am still shocked how many people I see writing, oh no, John, it'll work great. No, it won't. It's been proven over and over and over and over again. It's not even come close. Listen, you put Black Widow out on VOD, it won't make 1/4 of what it'll make if you put it in theaters. Disney knows this. But then again, there could be other factors at play that none of us are taking into consideration, right? So I cannot say that it's an impossibility. Under normal circumstances, what is being suggested here is absolutely impossible. Under normal circumstances, absolutely impossible. Under these unprecedented circumstances, still extremely unlikely, but not impossible. I'll tell you this, though. If for whatever reason Disney decides to commit financial suicide and try to put these things out on VOD, I can guarantee you they will enter into weeks-long discussions with the theaters first. They will not do what Universal did, which is swap Trolls 2 to a VOD release without giving the theaters any notice. Disney will give the theaters, and they'll enter into conversations and have exhaustive talks with the theaters and make sure they're up to speed and blah, blah, blah. That'll happen. But again, I think it's highly, highly, highly unlikely because it's financial suicide. It's absolute. They can sit on the movie for an extra 6 months and make an extra $400 million. It's no duh math. No duh. It's no duh math. So extremely unlikely. But again, unprecedented circumstances we're in, so anything can happen. So if they announce tomorrow that like a Black Widow, which they have already affirmed several times, Black Widow is going to theaters. That's what Disney's affirmed several times. But if tomorrow they announced that change of plan, they're going to go VOD on it, I will be surprised, but I'm not going to fall out of my chair in shock. Because again, unprecedented times. It's crazy times. All right. Chris 34M writes, did you like Swamp Man season 1? I am not familiar with Swamp Man, to be honest with you. So I cannot say yes or no. I'm not familiar with it. All right. Mysterious Robbed Man writes, 5 movies John likes that I don't like. Batman vs. Superman, Patch Adams, Girl Interrupted, Perks of Being a Wallflower. Now 5 movies I like that John doesn't. Birds of Prey, Blade Runner, X-Men Apocalypse, Sorry to Bother You, Super 8, one of my all-time faves, and there's probably more. I don't think there's any film on your list that I hate. Except for Sorry to Bother You. That movie's steaming garbage. You like it? Awesome. And your opinion is no less and no more valid than mine. That's awesome if you like it. I think it's not just a bad movie. It's like a joke. It's so bad. It's horrendously awful. But that's just me. But every other film on your list, I don't hate. I don't hate any of those films. But yeah, but that's the thing about being film fans, man. Listen, you can make a list of 100 films that you like that somebody else doesn't and vice versa. Absolutely. But that's the best. See, some people think that's a problem with movies. I think that's the best thing about movies is the fact that all of these films hit us all so uniquely and differently. And I think that's something for us to celebrate. So listen, I didn't like Birds of Prey. That doesn't mean I want other people to not like it. See, that's the heart of toxic fandom right there. The heart of toxic fandom is I didn't like something, therefore I want other people not to like it. And I'm going to do whatever I can to get people to not like it if I didn't like it. And I will call people names if they like what I don't like and blah, blah, blah. See, that's the heart of toxic fandom. This is a need to want others to have a bad time at something we ourselves didn't like. So that's why, like, for instance, I come out of something like Rise of Skywalker. I didn't like it. But hey, if other people did, awesome. I don't like the prequels. But if you like it, awesome. I mean, I don't, but if you do, great. I didn't like Birds of Prey, but you did? Great. That's fantastic. I'm glad you had a good time at it. I wish I had the time at it that you had at it, that sort of thing. And that's the best part about being film fans, that we all have different experiences with each individual piece of art that gets presented to us. And I think that's something to celebrate. So good list, man. Good list. All right. Chris 34M. Oh, did you like Swamp Thing season 1? Yes, I did. I liked it. Again, I was late to the party on it, but I thought it was pretty good. Which just added to my confusion of why the hell did you cancel this thing after 1 episode? even if you have to cancel it, why not wait till the end of the season to announce that the show's now canceled? Like, why? I will never, ever, ever understand that decision. Never understand that decision. All right. Spaced Case 2014 writes, "Hey, John, love the show. Thank you so much, man. You've covered Gotham before, yes, but I've never heard you cover their Joker. What did you think of Cameron Monaghan's performance? And did you prefer Jerome or Jeremiah? Not a fan of any of the last little bit of Gotham, to be honest with you. There were parts of the first few seasons that I thought Gotham really hit its stride. When Gotham, this is my overall feel of the show, Spaced. When Gotham was about Jim Gordon, that show worked and worked really well. When Gotham was what it was originally supposed to be about, because the initial concepts of Gotham was supposed to be about Jim Gordon, with a little bit of some familiar stuff in the background, but the show was originally kind of pitched and imagined as a Jim Gordon show. And I'll tell you what, when that show was about Jim Gordon, it sang. I mean, I thought it really sang. This dude, legacy of his dad, and the Carmine Falcone, and the crime and all that kind of stuff. And you've got a kind of origins of Penguin and all this. Like, when it was about that, it worked. Fish was I thought Fish was a really cool character when used the right way. It totally worked. But what happened was, in my opinion, just in my opinion, the show got caught up in trying to be a Batman show. I don't know if they felt pressure to do it, or if some new writer came into the writer's room, or some new producer took over. But they more and more tried to make it a Batman show. And then they had a really good kid playing a young Bruce Wayne. And I love the actor who played Alfred. I can't remember the actor's name, but I thought the dude who played Alfred was great. And I love that we would visit them every once in a while. Right? We'd stick our noses into Bruce and Alfred. And I like that. And I even like that he was developing a little bit of an early relationship with Jim Gordon. I like that too. But then at some point they start going, you guys see me say this, like, look, everybody, this is the boy who becomes Batman. Yeah, we know. We get it. It's Bruce Wayne. He's going to become Batman. Look, everybody, he's found a cave. Oh, yeah, we get it. Look, everybody, he's put on a mask. Did you know he becomes Batman later? Yeah, for fuck's sakes, we get it. He becomes Batman. And the more they started to focus on the Batman elements of the show, I felt the wheels came off the show. And by the time they got later into the show, into the last season or two, I felt like they really did abandon that show being a Jim Gordon show. It wasn't a Jim Gordon show anymore. Now it was a Batman Origins show, and it just didn't work for me. And you know me, I love Batman, but that did not work for me. And so I kind of zombied my way. I'm going to be honest. I kind of zombied my way through especially the last season. Now, Cameron Monaghan, who of course then went on to do, I believe he's the same kid who did Jedi Fallen Order, right? He's the voice actor and the motion capture dude for Jedi Fallen Order. I thought he was really good. I thought a lot of the performances in the thing were good, but honestly, I zombie walked my way through the final season. I just didn't care. That was a show for me that had a lot of promise and even had some really good glimpses of brilliance early on that really fizzled out. I mean, but then again, I've got people I got friends I know who really liked Gotham all the way through, but for me, it just kind of went out with a thud. I guess that's my way of looking at it. It kind of went out with a thud, unfortunately, but that's just me. All right. Michael Preston writes, had to return today physical media when I realized watching Supernatural, they changed the music in the show, making it unwatchable. Who knew Rob's right? Change the music in Supernatural? I have no idea what you're talking about. Supernatural is still on. What do you mean they changed the music? Anyway, listen. I have never argued that people shouldn't like physical media. I've never made the argument that people shouldn't like physical media, shouldn't want to. My simple argument, and the same argument that Rob makes, by the way, is that it doesn't matter whether you like it or not. It's going away. It is going away. Whether you love it, because Rob loves physical media, but Rob will be the first person to tell you physical media is going away. and it's declining quickly. It's going away fast. But I've never made the argument you shouldn't want physical media. I mean, not at all. I understand that there's a lot of benefits to having physical media. I myself am not a physical media guy. I haven't been for a lot of years. But that doesn't mean I don't recognize the advantages of physical media and why a lot of people do like it. It's just that it is an unfortunate reality that it is going away. All right. The Tuzzler writes, where'd we go here? Regarding Beverly Hills Cop 4, I didn't mean for it to sound like Beverly Hills Cop 4 has to be rated R. I just hope its tone is more like 1 and 2. Fans feel 3 is a letdown. That's true. Fans did feel, but I would also argue 3 was a little bit of a letdown because of content. I mean, it wasn't nearly made as well as the first 2, I think. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there who love Beverly Hills Cop 3, and that's awesome. But again, I felt it wasn't tone. It was just a poorly made movie, period. I mean, Beverly Hills Cop 3 is not one that I think about, honestly, myself. But hey, it is what it is. But I know what you're going for there, Tuzzler. I know what you're going for. All right, Yusuf writes, while I enjoy working at home, I would give anything to go back to my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym and the movie theater again. Oh, dude, believe me, I know. Believe me, I know. Look, I got to admit, this whole thing doesn't affect me as much as it affects most people because I normally work at home. Like, I am at home from the moment that I wake up till at least 6 or 7 o'clock at night anyway. That's what I do. That's my normal routine, even when we're not under quarantine. Right? It's not until after Ann gets home from work that I start to feel it a little bit. Well, and Ann is working from home now, but once we get past 6 or 7 o'clock at night, that's when I start to feel it. Because that's the time when I'm normally thinking, let's go out. Let's go get something to eat, baby. Let's go get a drink. I usually drink Diet Coke, but let's go get a drink. Let's go over to the cafe and let's work outside. Let's take our laptops and go to the cafe and work outside and have a little bit of food, or let's go to a movie, or let's go to Best Buy, or let's get out of the house and go do something. And so during the day, I don't feel it because I'm used to being at home during the day anyway, but it's later, dude. It's later. That's when it hits me. And I can only imagine how weird it must be for people who don't work at home, because you got to feel like what I feel at about 7 and 8 o'clock at night, you guys must feel all day, because you're not used to it like I am during the day. You must feel it like all day. And I can't even imagine how frustrating that must be. I cannot even imagine how frustrating that must be. Here's hoping, Yusuf, we get this all behind us sooner rather than later. We can all get back to it. All right. Next up, Trevor Macy writes, sorry if you discussed this. What the hell is up with John Jones? He used to be one of my favorite fighters, and to see him keep messing up is hard to watch. Will they kick him out of the UFC for good? They will never, ever kick him out of the UFC. They totally should. They 100% absolutely should. And I am telling you right now, they never will. They never will. I mean, he could go up and slap Dana White's wife in the face, and Dana White still won't fire him. He's a big draw. I mean, it's the same reason, after that BS that Conor McGregor pulled, like hospitalizing somebody, throwing that metal cart through the bus window and cutting up one of the UFC fighters' faces and hospitalizing him, all that kind of stuff. You know what the UFC did to discipline Conor McGregor? Nothing. They did nothing. I love the UFC, and I really like Dana White, as a matter of fact. But I lost a tremendous amount of respect. And I'm still a big fan. I am still a fan of Dana White. I'm still a fan of UFC. But I did lose a lot of respect for them when they did nothing to discipline Conor McGregor for what he did. And to this day, they barely, freaking John Bones Jones, he hit and ran with a pregnant woman with drugs. He's been caught with performance-enhancing drugs. He's been caught doing this, that. He's been, how many strikes? What is it, 18 strikes and you're out in the UFC? This guy, John Bones Jones, just continues to be a world-class moron. An absolute world-class jackass of the highest order. And it's frustrating. It's really frustrating because the dude has a mountain, like an absolute mountain of skill and talent that he is just, I don't know. It's just very frustrating to see a guy like that who has so much natural ability and God-given talent, when there are a lot of people who would kill to have that level of talent, and who would kill to be able to do what he is able to do in the ring. I don't believe he's a top 3 fighter all time, but he's in the conversation. He's absolutely in the conversation. I'm trying to find right now this picture. So let me just bring this up here. I'll bring this up. And listen, I've hung out with John Bones Jones. Right? I mean, I've hung out with him. Ant's hung out. There was this time we were in Las Vegas, and we had a chance. We actually bumped into and got to meet. Actually, let me see if I can bring the picture up here for you. We got to meet and hang out with John Bones Jones in Las Vegas for a while. There's my wife and John Bones Jones. That's us in Las Vegas, hanging out. And I'll tell you what, could not have been a more pleasant guy. Could not have been a more pleasant guy when we got to meet him and all that kind of stuff. But something happened to this dude. Something happened to this guy. I don't know if it was the money. I don't know if it was the fame. I don't know if it was the success. I don't know if it's, I don't know what it is. But this guy just became a jackass of the absolute highest order. Which is one of the biggest jackasses in the world. And it was when it comes to this. But no, believe it. They will never let him go. They will never fire him. They won't even discipline him. Like the Las Vegas Athletic Commission might discipline him, but it won't be the UFC. The UFC just won't. It sucks. It's unfortunate. I think they are hurting their sport by not doing it. But hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. Okay, let's see. Let's move on here. Next up comes to us from Yusuf, who we only got a few minutes left here, guys, so we'll go through as many as we can here. Yusuf writes, in my opinion, Mike Tyson is the baddest man to have ever walked the planet. I'd love to see the biopic of his finally go forward, and I think it would be a great lesson about redemption and change in this constant cancel culture we live in. Plus, I love boxing/MMA. Hey, listen, I don't know if in the world of boxing there was ever somebody who struck terror and fear into the hearts of every other boxer in the world than Iron Mike Tyson. I mean, you go back, don't think, you might be tempted to think if you aren't old enough to remember when he was actually still on top of the mountain, don't be tempted to think, oh, it's being overblown. No. Like he was literally walking into the ring with the greatest fighters in the world and knocking their asses out in the first round and just beating the hell out of them. I mean, boxing had never seen anybody that dominant, and I don't know if they ever will again. And when he lost to James Buster Douglas, it shocked the world. It shocked the world. Like everybody thought it was a typo in the news or something when James Buster Douglas beat him. Anyway, it's crazy stuff. A biopic on him would be interesting, but listen, I don't know that they'll ever get Iron Mike Tyson to agree to allow somebody to make a biopic of him unless it's not done accurately. Because there's a lot of darkness in a Mike Tyson biopic. A lot of darkness. And I don't know that Mike Tyson would be comfortable letting somebody go ahead and make a biopic that is truly showing all the crap and all the bad stuff. So I don't know. I don't know, Yusuf. I don't know if it'll ever get made, but he was a monster. Oh God, he was a monster. All right. It's possible, writes. Tim Platt just mentioned 12 Angry Men. Never really could get into black and white films before. Seeing it in my high school English class, it's a timeless movie. What are some other good black and white movies? All About Eve is one that you guys mentioned earlier. Oh, I mean, there's tons of them. I mean, we've talked about a lot of black and white movies on this show before, but I mean, I don't sit here and walk around with a list in my head of all of them. Listen, simple Google search. Here, let's do it together. Simple Google search. Greatest black and white movies. So let's just do a Google search. I mean, Casablanca, Psycho, Sunset Boulevard, Citizen Kane, It's a Wonderful Life, The Maltese Falcon, Doctor Strangelove. I mean, there's so many. There's just so many. And they're not, remember, black and white is not a genre, right? Black and white isn't a genre. But it's just, I don't think it's the black and white that turns people off. I just think there's a lot of people who don't want to watch stuff that's older than 10 or 15 years old, right? And so black and white becomes a representation of them of, oh, that's just a big keynote fact that this is an older film. Yeah, it's an older film, but they're brilliant. Some of the best films of all time. So yeah, there's just some of them. Like I just pulled up a quick list. Great black and white films. Casablanca, Psycho, Sunset Boulevard, Citizen Kane, Dr. Strangelove, Maltese Falcon, It's a Wonderful Life, On the Waterfront, on and on and on and on. Not to mention all the great comedy from that era. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff to go and check out there. All right, let's see here. That was It's Possible. Min Tran writes, John, with pilot season getting pushed back, is there a chance that more series on network TV gets renewal that due to the new shows not being ready? I don't think so, because you're still faced with the same problem, right? Like, if everything is shut down for pilots, everything is also shut down for the existing shows. So I don't think an existing show can be up and ready to go any faster given the current circumstances. I don't know that they can be up and ready to go any faster than, say, a new pilot would be, because everything's ready to go. The pilot's ready to shoot. All the pilots are ready to shoot. They're scripted. They're ready to go. All the casting's been done. All they've got to be given is the green light that they can get back into a studio and shoot. And so really an existing show would need the same thing. They've got all their staff. They got all their casting. They got everything. All they're waiting for is a green light to go and shoot. So honestly, it's a good question, but I don't think so, because I think the current hurdles are no easier for the one than they are for the other. So I don't think so, but it's an interesting question. Actually, I'll have to talk to Erin. Erin is obviously very involved in pilot season because she's shooting new pilots every year. So I'll have to ask her about that, because I don't think it would affect it very much, but maybe it does. Maybe there's some things here I'm not considering. So I'll talk to Erin about that, see what she has to say, man. All right. Interesting question, dude. All right. Iconic Reactions writes, hey, John, I'm a big fan. Thank you so much, sir. And like I said, your family to me. Oh, thank you so much. How did you know your wife was the one? Been with my girl for a year now. We're both 21. She means the world to me. Plus, she's Filipina. But yeah, my wife is Filipino as well. The first Filipino girl I ever dated. Listen, it's weird. Look, you got to understand, and I'm about to say something that paints me in a bad light, but it does. But it's the truth and it's reality, and it is what it is. When I came to Los Angeles, like many other guys living around the world, you dream about coming to LA and dating a bunch of gorgeous, glamorous LA, women. And that was kind of part of what I was doing, right? For a while. Like, a semi-long-term girlfriend I had and I broke up shortly after we got to LA. We just figured that the long distance thing wasn't going to work. So here I was in LA, single, and doing my thing. And I was just dating a lot of girls. And Anne, when I met Anne, it was just going to be, the next girl that I date. And I had that conversation with Anne when we started getting involved a little bit. I said, hey, just I don't even plan on staying in LA for more than a year. I'm probably going to be taking off in about 9 months or so, going back to Canada. And so whatever this is, it's probably going to be short term, but I really like you and I love hanging out with you, and it'd be cool if we did that for a while. To which Anne said to me, that's cool. I just got out of like a 9-year relationship, and she did. And I'm not looking for anything serious. I just want somebody fun to hang out with for a while. And you seem to be that. So let's just hang out for a while and have some fun. Great. Well, a day turned into a week, and a week turned into a month, and a month turned into 4 months. And before you know it, the way I described it at our wedding, I said, just somewhere along the lines, I realized one day, I don't want to not see her tomorrow. I was definitely not looking for a long-term relationship. I was definitely not looking for my wife. I just, at some point, I explained this better at my wedding, but I said at some point, I just realized I don't want to think about tomorrow if she's not here. I can't imagine next week without me being with her. And then, we, on our 1-year anniversary, we moved in together. And 1 year after we moved in together, we got married. and we've been together. It just happened. I just, for me, and believe me, I am no relationship doctor, but I just at some point it dawned on me, like when we first start dating, it's like, oh yeah, it'd be cool to see her tomorrow, but if I don't, I got lots of other things to do, blah, blah, blah. But at some point that changed to, when I think about tomorrow, I can't imagine doing whatever it is I'm going to do tomorrow if she's not a part of it, you know? And I think when that happened, and again, I don't know that this is the way it would work for other people. I can only say this is how it worked for me. When that happened, I realized, wow, I'm in love with this girl. I'm in love with her. You know, it's just, so listen, your experience will be different than mine. And the chemistry between every two people in the world is going to be a unique as your fingerprints. But that's how it happened with us. It was never meant to be serious. It was meant to be just casual and fun. And then we were going to move on. And then at some point, some way, I just realized I can't imagine tomorrow without her. And it just kind of snuck up on me. And we have been together ever since. So that's a little bit of our story. Anyway, this is John Campea, Love Doctor, coming to you on the airways. Yeah, I mean, what the hell do I know? What the hell do I know? All right. Anyway, it's always good dating a Filipina. I've liked it so far. All right. ZCMZ Zombie, Custom Maps writes, thoughts on Princess Mononoke? I personally love that film so much. Actually, Ann and I, a while ago, we did a video together and we talked about Princess Mononoke. I love it. I think it's great. Now, it's not my favorite Studio Ghibli film. Not my favorite one, but I really do enjoy it. Anne loves it though. Anne loves it. Like, I think My Neighbor Totoro is like, she doesn't quite like it as much as that one, but it's right up there for her. So, but I really quite enjoy it a lot. 50 Shades of Geek writes, John's voice at the start of the show, super equals Superman. John's voice at the end of the show, Batman. I guess gradually, as we pass like hour two, as we're now getting close to 2.5 hours, my voice more and more starts, I start like gasping and weaving a little bit. Yeah, I mean, that starts to happen with me. All right, Senpaigar writes, you could have Jedi powers and a lightsaber, or a fully functional Mandalorian armor. Oh, that's easy. Blaster, jetpack, what would you want? No way. Armor schmarmer. Who cares? The force powers? Force powers. And a lightsaber? Or an iron suit? Oh, no. Oh, no. No, there's no question. Yeah, listen. Iron suit sounds cool, and the Mandalorian suit, that sounds cool. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't say no. But to actually have magical wizard powers, to actually have force powers, oh, that's no question. That's no question. Yeah, definitely 100 times out of 100 times Senpaigar. I'm going for the magical space wizard powers and a lightsaber every single time. Every single time. Let's see. Casinema Reviews writes, just a few more days till Harley Quinn season 2. I know Anne brought that up the other day. I am so stoked. How exciting is it, by the way, to not only not have to wait 1.5 years for a new season, but we only literally had to wait about 6 weeks for a new season. Season 1 ended, 6 or 7 weeks later, season 2 is launching. I love it. I wish more shows were like that. I cannot wait to, I love that show. I'm almost embarrassed how much I love that show. Let's see. Are you a fan of Richard Marquand's other films? Man, I can't even remember Richard Marquand's other films, to be honest with you. Let me bring it up. Marquand. IMDb. All right. So let's go over here, because I honestly, I don't even remember off the top of my head. Now, I know he died like a long time ago. When did he die? Hold on a second. Richard Marquand. Why isn't this loading up? There we go. Richard Marquand died in 1987. So, I mean, outside of Star Wars, what did he do? Nowhere to Run. I like Nowhere to Run, actually. A lot of people didn't, but whatever. He was the writer of that movie, not the director. But Jagged Edge. I didn't mind Jagged Edge. To be honest with you, I didn't mind Jagged Edge. But I'll be honest with you, if it wasn't for Return of the Jedi, I probably don't even recognize his name, to be honest with you. I couldn't off the top of my head. If I went into a trivia battle and somebody said, name one other film that Richard Marquand directed, off the top of my head, I wouldn't have been able to pull any off, right? He was the guy sitting in George Lucas's chair for Return of the Jedi. That's honestly the only one I think of him for. And that's probably unfair. That's probably unfair, but it's the only one I really think of him for. William Powell just sends in a super chat to be supportive. Thank you, William. Luke1234 writes, did you play Mortal Kombat in the arcades? Oh, I did. And at the roller rink I would go to and roller skate and breakdance at a lot. Yeah, they also had a Mortal Kombat game, and they had it in the old Limeridge Mall in Hamilton. Yep, I used to play the old Mortal Kombat in the arcade. William Powell also sends in another super chat to be supportive. Thank you, William. Next up, Curtis Lopez writes, one of two. Couple movie recommendations. The Haunting, 1963, directed by Robert Wise, starring Julia Harris. Classic horror suspense supernatural film that's really underrated, and modern supernatural theme movies owes a lot of thanks to this one. Two of two. The other recommendation, Waking Sleeping Beauty, a documentary about the Disney animation renaissance in the late 1980s to the mid 1990s. If you're a fan of Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King, or just Disney in general, this one's for you. This one I have not heard of. I'm not familiar with this one. You're right about the other one, but this one, hold a second. Waking, Sleeping Beauty. I am not familiar with this. So this is a film. This is a documentary that came out in 2009. Let me bring it up just so you guys can see what it is I'm looking at. This came up in 2009. It is described as the story of Disney Renaissance, an incredibly prolific, successful, and prestigious decade lasting from 1984 to 1994 that saw the fallen Walt Disney Animation Studios' unexpected, progressive, triumphant return to excellence. Directed by Don Hahn, and yeah, he also narrated the movie himself, by the way. That sounds interesting. I've never... do you guys know if this is on Disney Plus? This seems like it'd be something on Disney Plus, but I don't know if Disney had anything to do with it. It seems like something to be on Disney Plus. Because this sounds great. I'd like to see this. If you guys know, so Baby Derek is saying yup, but I don't know if you're saying yup, it's a documentary, or yup, it's on Disney Plus. If any of you guys, a bunch of you guys are saying it is on Disney Plus, or no, some of you are saying it should be on Disney Plus. I've never seen or heard of this film. I've never seen or heard of this film. So yeah. Jeez, sign me up. Sign me up. I'd love to see. I love it when recommendations came in for movies I've never seen. That sounds great. Thank you for putting that one on my radar, Curtis. All right. William Powell writes, new to this, forgive duplicates. Thanks for the segment explaining the potential cost of a show. I wanted to inquire without intruding on your personal finances. Getting my own show started, and yesterday really helped. Oh, were you the person who asked me about like how much it costs to have everything? No problem. I listen. I'm a tech geek, all right? I don't talk a lot of tech geeky stuff, but like when I'm watching YouTube and stuff like that, I'm always watching tech videos. I'm a huge tech geek. I'm a huge gearhead. I love all this stuff. So I actually really like it when somebody writes in and gives me an excuse to talk about gear and gives me an excuse to talk a little bit of behind the scenes stuff. I actually get a big kick out of it. I don't often talk about it because I think a lot of people find it boring. So I don't talk about, guys, I want to talk to you about this new software I have, or, ooh, guys, you would not believe these new XLR cables I picked out. They're like gold plated, which does this and blah, blah. Nobody cares. But whenever I get a chance to talk about cameras or lighting or sound or software or gear or like, newest components I put in my computer, HDMI capture cards and blah, 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 or the latest, Skype replacement I'm using or whatever, I get excited to talk about that stuff. So thank you for asking about it and giving me an excuse to talk about it. Let's see here. There we go. Last couple of questions, guys, then we got to wrap this thing up here today. And don't worry, everybody else's questions who are still outstanding, we'll get around to them on the John Campea Show tomorrow. So don't worry. If you've sent in a question that we don't have time to get to, don't worry. We'll start off tomorrow's show with your questions, and we'll get through your questions off first on the John Campea Show tomorrow. Anyway, Curtis Lopez writes, by the way, Waking Sleeping Beauty is on Disney Plus. Good to know. Good to know, because I'm going to want to go check that out. Thank you for letting me know that, Curtis. Samuel Shin writes, Back to the Future 2 or 3. I prefer 3. I don't love Back to the Future 3. So I will go Back to the Future 2. Now, you're not alone, Samuel. A lot of people love Back to the Future 3. I don't mind it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just not a big fan of Back to the Future 3. And so for me, I'd go Back to the Future 2. I mean, Back to the Future 1 over both of them, but out of those two, I'll take Back to the Future 3. Sam O'Neill writes, Kids in theater story. Was watching Toy Story 4, and during a quiet scene, a kid yells asking for mom and milk. No word of a lie. I'm asking for mum and milk. Are you saying like was asking, like verbally asking to breastfeed? Or was just saying, calling for mom and wanting a glass of milk? I'm not quite sure what you mean. So we were talking the other day on the show about how a lot of times we think of kids in theaters and they're just annoyances, but some of the most adorable moments I've ever been in a movie theater is when a kid has done something adorable in a theater during like a quiet moment in a movie. But anyway, that would be an interesting, if a kid was literally asking to breastfeed, that's interesting on a lot of different levels, Sam. Anyway, thanks for sending that in. Alex Spur writes, what is your most terrifying sci-fi character? For me, it's the Borg from Star Trek. Just the way they can take you over is scary. Yeah, that's a good one. Predators. Even more than aliens, I think predators. Like, forget a lot of the subsequent Predator stuff. Go right back to the original Predator movie. Just the idea that they just hunt you for sport, just for fun, just literally for something fun to do and to prove myself and blah, blah, just to hunt and kill you just for sport. There's something about that. So I will go, the Borg is a great one, but I will go all the way to Predators. Yes, I will go all the way to Predators. Let's see here. John McKinley writes, and guys, this will be our last question today. This will be our last one today. All right, John McKinley writes, damn shame Alan Rickman, Hans Gruber died. He would have been perfect for Judge Claude Frollo for a live-action Disney remake. If you're talking about Hunchback, I'm going to guess you mean. R.I.P. Guess I'll have to go to his brother Simon, Jeremy Irons, to play him. Well, remember, here's the thing. He would be perfect for Frollo the way you're picturing the character being done live action. But remember, the directors and filmmakers and screenwriters may have that incarnation a little bit different than what's in your imagination, in which somebody else would be perfect for it. You know what I'm saying? But moving beyond that, Alan Rickman was just one of the finest actors we've had in our lifetimes. He was great. There's some of his best works were movies people didn't watch and appreciate. All right. But even if you just go to his iconic stuff, a lot of people will think of him as Harry Potter. A younger generation will think of him as Snape in Harry Potter. A lot of other people will always remember him as Hans Gruber. Some of us will remember him mostly from Galaxy Quest. By Grabthaw's hammer, I will avenge. Anyway, he was simply one of the best. And whenever he popped up on screen, you knew you were in for something enjoyable, and you were in for a ride. And I remember finding out when he passed and just thinking, what an absolute shame. I mean, obviously, I didn't know him personally, so there's obviously more important things. But as a film fan, I just remember thinking upon news of his passing, what an absolute damn shame. That far too soon, we have lost one of the most incredibly gifted and skilled and enjoyable person to see on the screen. Because he could do it all. He could be the hero. He could be the villain. He could be the lead in a romantic tragedy. He could be an important character in a YA Harry Potter kind of novel. He could be one of the greatest villains of all time. He could do comedy. He could be, I mean, he was just, you run out of ways to talk about Alan Rickman. He was simply one of the best. And it's a shame for many reasons that we don't have him with us anymore. But hey, yeah, if you were around today and they were announced tomorrow, he was going to be Frollo. I mean, that would be something to be excited about too. Anyway, guys, listen. For everybody else, Avery, Oakley, Michael, Nerd Talk, and all the way through, don't worry. Again, your questions are going to get answered first up tomorrow on the John Campea Show when we get into the live question parts, because there's only probably about 15 minutes more left, but I've reached the end of my line as far as I can go. So thank you guys for being here today and being a part of the show, and thanks for spending a part of your weekend here with us. A special thank you to all of you guys who did send in questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about, but number two, you supported the channel while you were doing it. And all of us here on the John Campea YouTube channel, thank you guys very, very much for that. Don't forget, guys, the John Campea Show returns tomorrow morning with me and Robert Meyer Burnett. Make sure you come on by and join us for that. That will do it for me for now, guys. Thank you so much for being here. My name is John Campea, and until next time, guys, stay safe.